Hello there, and welcome to the stream. Welcome. Uh, right, today, hello everybody. Hello. I do have the chat up, and it is working for once, so that's really good news. Format for today's stream. Firstly, I hope everyone is doing absolutely wonderful. We were going to do, Clayton and I, a stream about our favourite episodes. That hasn't gone to plan because Clayton's not feeling very well, so he's not feeling up to streaming. So I thought I'd still do a stream, but I'd talk to you guys about some of the episodes that I dislike from classic Star Trek. Now, I'm not going to include any episodes from the original series. I know Kirk's on the thumbnail, but I've promised my subs that I will get through the original series again. I haven't seen the original series since I was a little nipper, and I will get through that and probably do a separate stream when I eventually do get through it, and I'll go through what I thought of it, what I remember from it, and all of that stuff. Good day, Clayton. How are you? I hope you're feeling at least as well as you can. Just another watch nerd. Hello. Well, hello to you too. So yeah, I wanted to do a stream just about some of the episodes of Star Trek that I don't particularly like, either through them just being very poor, not very well written, or just episodes that I can't bring myself to watch. Now, I also have this little caveat for these episodes that I'm going to mention, and that is that if I was to spend a good chunk of time watching Star Trek or any of the Star Trek series, that if I was doing one episode after the other, these would be the episodes I skip because I simply have zero interest in them, either through quality or just utter cringe. So I do have the chat up live on the screen. Hopefully that's updating for everybody. Do feel free to be part of this conversation because it is a conversation, and it's one that's going to be going on for a while. And episodes you wouldn't show me. It's my wife. My wife is in the chat. Hello, baby. And yeah, these are episodes I wouldn't show my wife. That is one stipulation. If I don't show my wife, they don't meet the list. Hello, is this just live action Trek? It is for now, yes. This is everything from The Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and Enterprise. Again, the original series is something I'm going to cover in a different stream once I've got caught up with it, and once I know, or once I've refreshed my memory. As I get caught up with it, I have watched it in its entirety, but it was so long ago, I wouldn't be doing it any justice at all, and I don't think it's fair. So, so yes, I will go through some of the episodes I've chosen, and you guys give me your opinions about what episodes you liked, what episodes you disliked. Let's just stick to disliked for this stream. I do also apologise, it is actually really warm up here. So if I do start sweating, it's not because I'm nervous, it's simply because the temperature is so high. So yeah, I think we can get started here. Firstly, just before I do start, does anyone have like their ultimate hated episode of Star Trek? The one that they really disliked the most? Because it's not... Clayton and I said in a live stream, Clayton said in a live stream, and I completely on the same page as him, that we don't sugarcoat Star Trek, and we don't view it with rose-tinted glasses. It has had its absolute pooper episodes, and it has had some failings along the way. Yes, there are some absolutely corking episodes that we absolutely love, and I will be covering that in a stream with Clayton. I believe next weekend we've arranged for that, and I will obviously schedule the stream. But Star Trek has not always hit the mark, We've had some very poor episodes, some very confusing episodes, and some just downright unacceptable by modern standards. And I'm not judging any of these by modern standards, except maybe one, and I think you can guess which one that's going to be. But for the most part, Star Trek, the quality of Star Trek of these shows at the top is pretty good. But I just want to cover where they didn't meet the mark. So I think, to be fair, I'm going to start with The Next Generation. If wishes were horses, from DS9 and whatever the finale to Enterprise was called. Enterprise finale is universally hated, and I must admit, it is on my list. The Enterprise has quite a few, but it's really hard because you have to decide on what you're gauging bad as. Yeah, these are the Voyagers from Enterprise was just the worst. That's Clayton and Wifey. Enterprise finale had me swearing a lot. Yeah, I remember. It did have you swearing an awful lot. It had me swearing an awful lot, and an awful lot of the fan base swearing as well, because it was supposed to be a Valentine to the fans, and it turned out to be quite poisonous. I don't think they really knew how to end it, and in all honesty, I wish they'd just ended it with Terra Prime. But we'll get into that at some point later on in the stream, because I will try and cover all of the series and the ones that the ones that I really didn't like. If wishes were horses from DS9, that was an interesting one. I'm not sure whether I really. I think it falls on neutral ground for me with that one. I know Masks is disliked in TNG, but I kind of liked it. Well, funny enough, there might be one on my list. So I'm just going to go through the Next Generation list. I'll give you the 5 episodes I've chosen, because I tried to limit to 5. But as I worked my way down the list, and I worked my way through all the shows, all the episodes from different series, I found my list getting longer and longer and longer for each series. So the TNG cast really disliked Code of Honor. Well, funnily enough, yeah, that is actually number 1 on my list. Code of Honor, not a great episode, and yes, by modern standards, it can be viewed as quite racist. What's happening, dude? Hello, Zell. Can we class Code of Honor as so bad it's good? Well, we're just covering that. Code of Honor is not. As I said earlier, I'm judging this list on ones that I would skip if I was binge watching, simply because I don't like them for various reasons. Code of Honor is definitely the first one that I would hit the skip button. There were a lot from the first series, the first season of The Next Generation, that I would happily skip over. And I found the first season of The Next Generation to be a little bit too close in style to the original series. I much preferred The Next Generation when it became about 50% less goofy. And actually, it almost matured as a show. John Chow, I love Code of Honor because even as a 7-year-old kid, I can tell the entire cast was uncomfortable. Watch the last scene. Picard wants to get the fuck out more than any other episode. I would say that's pretty accurate. I know that the cast didn't like it. And I suppose it spoke to a different sort of era, a different time on television. But even back then, very, very, very. If your cast is uncomfortable and your cast isn't giving their best performance, then yeah, it's going to be pretty sour experience for everyone, and it's gonna come through in the episode, and it's gonna show. But Code of Honor was in some ways a story that didn't need to be told. It was quite badly written, and very, very, very insensitive to certain groups. So yeah, Code of Honor definitely made my list. It is actually on the top of my list. The second one, I suppose, was a victim of its own sort of timing, and it's quite sort of apt to what has recently happened with the writer's strike, and that's Shades of Grey, because it's an unfortunate lazy episode of television, because and they pretty much, it's all they had to work with at the time, because there was lots of strikes going on at the time, and this is deep that they had to end the season, and this was how they chose to do it with Shades of Grey, which is a flashback episode. There's very little going on in it. Riker's got an internal battle, and he's reliving a lot of the moments from season 1, and a lot of shows do this. I think when they need a filler episode, it's like, let's do a nostalgia episode, let's do an episode that references previous episodes and shows clips from those, just to fill out the runtime. I don't really blame it for being a bad episode because of the nature of the way it was released. Clayton Rumley: when I first saw The Naked Now, I was 10, and I could see it was just a cheap repeat of The Naked Time. And since the characters weren't fully established, the actors seemed to be overacting a lot. Yeah, I mean, I can agree with that. I think, and I suppose it points to another thing that I'm told quite often, is that Star Trek shows in general take a few seasons to find their feet and for the actors to become comfortable in the role, and it was certainly true of The Next Generation. I think a lot of people saw The Next Generation as the original series Mark II or version 2, and certainly the earlier seasons felt like that. And one thing I can agree with you there on, Clayton, is I don't like cheap repeats. Enterprise did suffer from that a little bit. SG-1 was pretty bad for its clip show episodes. Yeah, the wife and I are making our way through SG-1 because we've both sort of been a bit scatty with it and seen certain episodes and not seen other episodes. So we're going through it again, and it does have, it's got a fair few flashback ones that we've seen. I believe I believe in the 90s, Friends did that a lot as well. There was always episodes that were chocked full of, highlights of previous episodes, all sort of related to what the characters were going through in that particular episode. But it was just a way to fill time, and they'll still get paid for it. So yeah, a lot of shows do this, and it's not something that's exclusive to Star Trek. But Shades of Grey was just poor in general, and it was a means to an end, really. That particular episode. I'm gonna skip review of Jill Sandwiches. How are you, mate? It's been a while. I love SG-1, but yeah, I hate the clip episodes. Although weirdly, they usually have big story implications, which makes them worse. Yeah, and that's generally because you need to sit through and watch them, because they've got stuff that ties into the rest of the season or the rest of the series. And always makes a point, is it's like you're forced to watch the greatest moments to actually understand what's going on in a show. And I think, that's not great. That's not great. And I'm going to skip ahead a little bit, a few seasons in The Next Generation, to Man of the People. Now, this episode was the Ambassador episode, where he's draining the life out of Troy. He's like zapping the life energy out of her, and he does this for he does this to maintain his own his own sort of life energy, so he can keep negotiating. And it's about the price of negotiation, in this instance, with zapping the life out of Troy in order to get these negotiations done. And in the end, obviously the crew save her, but I didn't think that was a fantastic episode. Sir Equinox, bad Star Trek episode. In TNG, where Riker meets his double, is definitely one. What a yawn fest. Yeah, that did lead, however, to a pretty good DS9 episode, with Thomas Riker and the Marquis. I thought that was a really good follow-up episode to that. Justice is an episode from season 1 I will always skip. Yeah, I mean, I could have put a majority of season 1 on this list, but I wanted to be fair, because season 1 is the initial season, isn't it? It's certainly the warm-up season before things start to get good. And as I say that, I see Clayton's latest comment. The Child season 2 episode 1 is one I don't feel the need to rewatch. Yep, completely agree. The Child, that was the one where Troy had the pregnancy that happened just like that. Pretty quick pregnancy, and had a child, and it's not really going anywhere, is it? In all honesty, it's a bottled episode, and it wasn't particularly well done. And I don't know about you guys, but early Deanna Troi, I found her really sort of cringe-inducing. Like Marina Stursis was overacting all the time, and the incessant fiffing all the time. Yes, Captain. Like she had a lisp, and then when she was feeling the emotions of other entities that were in pain or anything, she'd always go, "Great pain, Captain." It always felt sort of cheesy and overacted. Reva, speaking of bad Trek, Prophet and Lace was terrible, worse than most any bad TNG episode. Yeah, we'll get that. We'll get to that. I'm sure. She was pretty annoying. Yeah, Bug Body, how you doing, mate? Yeah, she was pretty annoying. And it was like, yeah, there was just so much overacting happening there. She was definitely better in the later seasons, but I always found Troy to be somewhat what's the best way to describe Troy? Kind of like the naive, everything will be fine kind of sister to the show, I suppose. Her One Piece jumpsuits were bad too. Yeah, I mentioned in a previous stream that I really wanted to get into proper uniform, and when Jellicoe came along and put her in a proper uniform, that was pretty cool. I think after that she began to look a little bit more professional, but it's like she was just half-arsing her rank because she was a counsellor. First and foremost, she was an officer on board a ship, but she was always wearing the One Piece jumpsuits. I'm just reading the chat, sorry. Clip shows were quite boring. Yeah, I completely agree. I think I'm skipping back a little bit. Hold on. Masks. Masks was another one. I'm not a massive fan of the episode Masks. The one good thing I will say about Masks is Brent Spiner did really well in that episode. Like, really well. He really did. He stretched his acting legs a little bit. And he was very good at portraying the different personalities, which is not something that you're used to seeing with Data. So I think Brent Spiner did really well, but the episode I thought was pretty poor, and it didn't really resonate with me, and it's definitely one that I would skip. Zell, I'm going to be a little controversial. I don't like any Lwaxana Troy episodes. Do I like any Lwaxana Troy episodes? Definitely nothing in the earlier seasons. The one where they were kidnapped by the Ferengi, that was pretty poor. The one episode that I did like with Lwaxana Troy was Dark Page. The Dark Page was really good. I really did enjoy that one, because it was very sort of well put together, and it's kind of a nice little mystery, and it was quite dark for the Next Generation. So I did quite like Dark Page. Genesis is a bad TNG episode. That's the one where Picard and Data come back from an away mission and the crew have de-evolved and are running rampant on the ship. I think the concept's really good for the episode. I think the concept works. I did enjoy Genesis, but I think no, you know what? I kind of enjoyed Genesis. It was a little bit different. Clayton, I like Lwaxana better in DS9 when she interacts with Odo. Doesn't it seem like that there's more to the character in Deep Space Nine than there is in the Next Generation? She's a much more rounded character and well written. It feels like there's more layers to her as you get through later episodes, rather than treating her like a character that's just there to be silly and wind Captain Picard up, and embarrass him and embarrass her daughter and everything like that. It seemed like she became a bit more filled out as a character when by the time the Next Generation sort of ended and she went on to Deep Space Nine. I thought that she was a lot better there. I actually enjoyed Lwaxana's interactions with Odo, in particular their first episode together. Yeah, funnily enough, the first VHS I ever got that episode. That and Dramatis Persona. I'm sure that was the one. It was coupled because it was 2 episodes on a box set. I find Lwaxana Troy to be pretty annoying as a character in general. Each to their own, though. Yeah, I think she was there as sort of comedy relief or comic relief in the earlier episodes, but I think she became something a little bit more interesting. Has someone mentioned Sub Rosa yet? Give me half a chance. Sub Rosa. Oh my god. Yeah, Sir Equinox, that's the one we're talking about. Sub Rosa. Sub Rosa was a very odd one for me because I remember watching that with my girlfriend at the time, and when it aired in the UK, and for the rest of the evening we were just messing around, going, just saying to each other, Beverly. Oh my god. I mean, yeah, Sub Rosa was terrible. Sure, yeah, it was. I was just about to write Sub Rosa. Apparently, we're all on the same page. Yeah, random chat tangent. The Child. Yep, we've discussed The Child, albeit somewhat briefly. What do you think of Rascals, the episode where several cast members are turned into children? I kind of liked it. I did kind of like it because it was quite playful, but they cast Picard's nephew, the actor that plays Picard's nephew, to play young Picard, and there's something really something that winds me up about the way that actor sort of portrays it. and explicitly had good writers on the episode. Sub Rosa. Yeah, it's an odd one. It's such an oddball. It feels like it doesn't belong in Star Trek. It's really weird. Sub Rosa gives us so many memes, I just can't hate it. Don't get me wrong, the concept of watching Dr. Crusher having fun time is awesome, but the execution not so much. Yeah, it was a bit rough, wasn't it? A bit rough as an episode. It's good that we can laugh about these things. I didn't like the dolphin much. I thought that was pretty poor episode. And, you know, Star Trek hasn't always got makeup right and stuff like that. So, yeah, it kind of hasn't aged very well. Sorry, I missed one. John Chow, because she's worth it because of Mr. Mr. Hom. Yeah, Mr. Hom. Wasn't that, what's his name? Carol Strickland. He's like 6'80", and he was in is it the Monsters or the Addams Family? One of those two, I can't remember. But yeah, Mr. On was good. The dolphin, yeah, I didn't enjoy the dolphin. It's early Wesley Crusher, you know. Who here likes early Wesley Crusher as a character? And doesn't just find him like some obnoxious, annoying young Sheldon type git who I just, the earlier episodes, the early seasons were great in the sense of being, you know, shut up Wesley, you know, that sort of thing. Lurch in the 90s, Addams Family, thank you. Did season 7 have more bad episodes than season 1 of TNG? I don't think it had more bad episodes. I think it had some great episodes, but I think it did have a few poopers. I liked early Wesley when I first watched it because I was 10 and I was like, wow, it's a kid doing cool stuff on a starship. Yeah, Clayton, you're absolutely right. And it was, you kind of related to him in a sense, or he related to you in that you could imagine yourself being in there doing that sort of stuff and thinking, wow, what a fantastic experience that would be if you were the one that was doing it. But I think as I got older, certainly as I got older, it just got a little worse. Season 7 was a bit weird and experimental at times. Yeah, as much like season 4 of Enterprise, there was some risks taken there. And season 7, it did feel like they just said, well, you know, let's just go for it. Let's just make it. Let's just go out with a bit of a bang. It was like the episode where the Enterprise's computer became sentient, or the Enterprise became sentient and gave birth to a life form. I found that such a weird one, especially with the holodeck and the way it was filmed and the way it was written. It was really bizarre, truly bizarre. So anybody else got any more next gen ones? Any more next gen episodes that they really didn't like? Eye of the Beholder kind of felt out of place, like Troy is investigating a murder mystery. Yeah, Troy seems such an odd one to investigate a murder or a suicide. I mean, I know she's got the telepathy, but she's empathic. Hardly telepathic, but she's empathic. But she's certainly been on the investigative team, but it really did feel out of place. I do agree with you there, Clayton. Zell, one of my favourites from season 7 was one with the Orient Express. Really, that one I found really odd and out of place. I didn't really like that one. I've seen it twice since it aired. It's definitely one that I skip. It's a shame we haven't revisited some of that weird Enterprise lore, like the Temporal Cold War. Yeah, the Temporal Cold War, they wanted to close that storyline, didn't they? They wanted to shut that off completely because that was. There's some say that the Temporal Cold War was the reason Enterprise didn't do so well. It's because people didn't really it didn't really catch on with people. And in general, I don't like episodes with godlike aliens teleporting people and other magical powers. I did kind of like the Ardra episode, the episode with the was it the forget the title of the episode now, but she's basically she's a con artist and she cons an entire planet into thinking that she's the devil and she's come to collect on a contract that was signed 1,000 years previous. I thought that was quite an interesting one because she appears to have the power of a god, but it's all explained with technology, and I found that really, really quite funny. I heard Enterprise got cancelled mostly because of the CEO at the time. Yeah, there was a lot of internal politics, but even back then, the Temporal Cold War storyline just wasn't gelling with people. It's certainly not the writers. I think they did what NuTrek is doing now, and that's creating a lot of problems within the canon and lore of Star Trek. And I think that was Devil's Due. It was a good episode. Thank you for that. Yeah, it was Devil's Due. I liked that. I haven't seen it in forever, but Outrageous Akona is disliked and as a Harry Mudd clone without the women. Yeah, that was also the Outrageous Akona. Wasn't that Terry Hatcher who played the transporter operator at the time? And we were all like, oh, Terry Hatcher. Originally a Phase 2 story, that I didn't know. I'm trying to think of bad TNG episode that hasn't been mentioned, but I tend to think of the good or okay ones with good ideas. Yeah, hence my trouble with this stream. You know, you go in looking for the ones that you wouldn't watch again, and then you get reminded of all the great ones, which I can't wait to talk next week with Clayton about. Not a fan of Cupid, but I don't hate it. Cupid is the Robin Hood one, isn't it? Yeah, it's not one I've watched an awful lot of, to be fair. It'd be interesting to talk about episodes that have terrible A stories but good B stories, or vice versa, where you suffer through half of it because the other half is so good. Yeah, you skip through you skip through story A points to mainly get the story B points. I do that quite often. Honestly, RE Enterprise, I think the Temporal Cold War was a great storyline just before its time. I don't think the same would be said for NuTrek in a few years. I may be wrong there. I don't think you're wrong. I agree with you on that. It was a very difficult storyline to pull off. I think it was a little bit out of place. Pardon me for saying so. Did you mention the Ferengi episodes? The Ferengi episodes on Next Gen were really mixed. The early ones were pretty dire. The latter ones, I mean, they featured in a fair few episodes, but they mostly weren't Ferengi centric episodes. I did like the Bok one. The Damon Bok one where he's trying to kill Picard's son, but it wasn't the best. It wasn't the best episode I'd ever seen. It was. I can rewatch it and be all right with it. Schisms is an okay episode. I just think they could have gone further and darker. Yeah, that could have gone darker. You have to be kind of dig for bad TNG episodes. Almost every episode of NuTrek is bad. Yeah, and I thought I'd focus on OG Star Trek because I have covered NuTrek quite a lot on this channel. Yeah, DS9 fixed the Ferengi just being a joke. Yep, I agree with that, absolutely. Schisms wasn't just alien abduction; it was just alien abductions in outer space. Yeah, but I agree that it could have gone darker. It could have gone darker. The scene where they were recreating it all in the holodeck was really good, and you sort of felt the tensions, and you felt the hairs on the back of your head sort of raising a little bit, because you're thinking, oh, this is creepy. But I would have probably gone a little darker. Not a bad episode, but Relics was a terrible handling of Scotty. They find this past era hero and just gave him fart. And just have him fart about for a bit, and then he's sent off in a shuttle to who knows where. Yeah, it was limiting with what they could do. I thought the explanation of how Scotty managed to appear in the Next Gen, I thought was really good, and I thought it was a great concept. But it was a little bit. It was a little bit off-putting when they just off him onto a shuttle. And it's just like even the scene where it goes where it is explaining about Galaxy's Child, that episode, and they're walking in the corridor, and he goes, anyway, I thought you were going to buy me a drink in 10 forward, and poor Scotty is expecting to go to the bar and stick around on the Enterprise, and Geordi goes, nope, we've got you a shuttle, off you go. It's like, we won't see you next episode, Scotty. So I thought that was really. It was quite jarring close to it. I'd have liked Schisms going darker, and I'd like to follow up. Yeah, that would have been really good, a follow up. So yeah, I think that pretty much covers the Next Generation pretty well. I know I'm not going into a terrible amount of detail, but this is a back and forth with the chat as well. So onward we go. And I am going chronologically in terms of show release here. Deep Space Nine. Deep Space Nine. Yeah, Geordi was a bit rude to Scotty in Relics. Yeah, it was, it was brilliant. Relic was great for incorporating the Dyson Sphere concept. I absolutely loved that concept. I didn't quite buy that an alien species would create the Dyson Sphere. I completely agree that the Dyson Sphere is possible. It has been theorized, and I think it's a great concept. But I highly doubt an advanced alien race would build a Dyson Sphere of essentially around a 6-star. And if you had built it around a 6-star, then would you abandon it so readily? You see the inside of the Dyson Sphere, and it's like a planet. In fact, it's huge, really. You're looking at it and you're thinking, well, actually, because it's almost as big as the Earth's orbit around the sun, you imagine the entirety of the inside of that Dyson Sphere and the amount of population you could fit in there. That is absolutely incredible. Yeah, Geordi was a bit rude. Schisms and conspiracy both get followed up in quite nicely in Star Trek Online. Again, I'm not familiar with Star Trek Online too much. It's not something that I play. They Moriarty'd Scotty. Yeah, but at least Moriarty had a follow-up episode, and then they just stuck him in the little computer and they're shipping the bottle. Yeah, there's some good concepts and some bad concepts, but I think the ones that I mentioned, Coda Runner, Shades of Grey, Man of the People, Mask, and the Dolphin, were amongst some of the bad ones. Not very well thought out, not very well executed. Apparently, the worst rated Deep Space Nine episode on IMDb is The Rise of Holiday with Dax and Worf. I don't even remember that. Yeah, that had the extremists who were fucking around with Rice's weather, and you got Quark and Julian. They're on holiday as well. They basically hijack Worf and Jadzia's holiday. I'm going to nominate Move Along Home for Deep Space Nine. First one there, Move Along Home. Move along. There must be a time in an actor's life when they go, what the hell did I sign up for? And Move Along Home was just an atrociously bad episode. It was horrible. It was. I can't watch it. I think we watched it when my wife sat on the Deep Space Nine. I think even she agrees that was terrible. To be in a game with no stakes like that and having to do all these ridiculous things, it was silly, and it was really sort of evident of Deep Space Nine's earlier seasons. It wasn't great. That's the episode where Worf becomes a men's right activist and terrorist. Yeah, and there was no consequences for him. Sorry. Also, I didn't care for the episode where Sisko first meets Q. No, I liked that one. I liked that one because Sisko, after Q meets Sisko, he doesn't come back. I thought it was good, and I thought the explanation with Vash was quite good, but I thought Q was a little bit shit in that. I think he was not. He was written more like NuTrek would write Q, rather than your typical sort of Q. And he was quite cruel to Vash, and you can sort of see his menacing side, and I didn't really enjoy seeing that. I always knew that Q was harsh, but there would always be a lesson, rather than him selfishly torturing someone just to make them stay with him. I didn't agree. I didn't think that was a very Q thing to do. Can barely watch any of DS9. Really? Oh, that's it. It's probably my favourite Star Trek show at the moment. Don't like Bar Association. I wasn't a massive fan of a lot of the Ferengi episodes. I've excluded them from my list because they are just, to me, a non-event in Deep Space Nine. Some of them are actually quite good, but most of them, I think, although they flushed the Ferengi out and they by the end of Deep Space Nine, they'd essentially made the Ferengi evolve, and essentially they changed the nature of the Ferengi and what made the Ferengi. And it would take 2 hours or more to discuss all the Bad Voyager episodes. Yeah, there's more than 5 on my list. Definitely more than 5 on my list. So we have Move Along Home for DS9. The episode Paradise annoys me. This is Clayton. But maybe because I hate the motivations of the antagonist so much. Paradise. Yeah, Paradise. Paradise. That was that oh fuck. My memory's not. You know what? I feel great shame in having to do this, but I'm gonna have to pull up IMDb now. Because I can't rely on other people to remember things for me. DS9. Paradise. Was that the second season episode where they crash land and it's got the strange duonetic field? Was that the one? With the lady who was it season 2? I'm sure it was season 2. Paradise. Yeah. It's the one where Brian and Sisko beam down to a planet, and all the technology is being blocked because they want to they wanted to learn, they wanted to live without technology, and she basically forced an entire group of people who crash landed there to live basic lives without technology, and a load of them died. The motivations of her motivations were horrendous. What a horrible individual she was. She had this grand idea for essentially the village type situation, where she set up these inhibitors for technology, and then a crew, her ship, which had all a crew on, crashed on this planet, and she forced them into a life, basically forced them into a pre-industrial society. That was horrendous. It annoys me as well because the treatment of the two officers and Ben Sisko is, the punishment is to be in a box and get dehydrated in the sun. I mean, bloody hell, you could kill people doing that. I mean, I know, punishment and whatnot, but that was just horrendous. Can't remember too many bad DS9 episodes, but I can't remember what many of them were about. At least bad episodes are memorable. That's the woman who prevents tech from being used. Paradise is basically Jonestown, even down to the metal box. Yeah. Great episode because it made me angry, as it's meant to. Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, it just made me angry that it just made me it made me hate the antagonist, which I suppose it's supposed to do. But I just think that the people there, they've been. There's one thing I hate is cult brainwashing. I hate cult brainwashing. It's absolutely horrendous. Right, yes. Deep Space Nine, Arrivals. That's one I definitely don't need to rewatch. It's where a bloke opens up another gambling establishment opposite Quarks, and they're luck machines. So they spin positrons the wrong way, and people get really lucky or get really unlucky. Interesting premise with a bit of a science fiction theme to it, but I just did not enjoy the episodes where people are trying to make ends meet on a space station. I wanted Star Trek, and I didn't get Star Trek with that episode. It was kind of like, rival gambling establishments on a space station. Not a great fan of that one. Patrick, I'm not the person who can watch something over and over again. I have watched all the series probably 2 to 3 times. I can hardly watch any episode now because I know them too well. Kind of sad. Yeah, almost like you want to have a lapse in memory just so you can go back and watch them all again. I kind of get that way with Star Trek, classic Star Trek at the moment, because I have seen an awful lot of them over and over again. This is why I kind of want to do the original series again, to refresh myself, because it has been decades since I've seen it, so it should be quite interesting, that one. Yeah, Rivals, didn't think much of Rivals as an episode. Meridian. How to fall in love and tragedy sort of strike in that sense of have it fall off a bloody cliff in a matter of days. Never, ever, 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 ever bought any of that sort of shit on Star Trek. Jadzia Dax meets this alien whose planet comes out. It comes out of another dimension, basically, and she falls in love with this clown and wants to join them by the end of the episode. She's made up her mind. She wants to join them. She wants to leave Starfleet, leave her life, leave her friends, leave her experiences, everything, and just go be an extra-dimensional entity on this planet that goes in and out of this other dimensional place. And then she can't go because her matter's not the same as the one on the planet, and she ends up getting pulled back because she's the one thing that anchors the planet. Terrible episode. Did not enjoy it, and I don't care to watch it again. It's definitely not one for me. Definitely not. What's the episode with the bad-skinned Gamma Quadrant aliens who want to settle on Voyager? Sanctuary, isn't it, that one? I remember not liking that one. Sanctuary, it was the first... Wasn't that the first reference of the Dominion? That was the... I think that was the first time we heard the Dominion. And then it's sort of referenced a little bit more throughout the season. Sanctuary, yeah. Clayton and I, seriously, on the stream. I think we'd be a force to reckon with, mostly because of Clayton. Business as usual wasn't very memorable to me, except for, I think, the episode where Worf babysits Yoshi. Yeah. That's where he says, I have fought this, I have fought that, I have courted Jadzia Dax and won her favour. If I can do all that, I can babysit this kid. And it's like, yeah, okay. Dax falling in love instantly. Yeah, exactly. The B plot in Meridian was better. Yeah. And again, as Clayton said earlier, the A plot and the B plot. You have to suffer through the A plot to get the B plot. I didn't mind Sanctuary. I like the demonstration of how the Universal Translator learns. Yeah, there was a good... I like when things are explained. They don't have to be heavily explained, but because some exposition helps. I think Clayton will agree with this, being an author. Exposition does help. But you can overuse it and you can underuse it. I think just the right amount of exposition does help. Sanctuary, I thought, was... It's like the episode of Voyager. Now, what was it called? It's the one where the Hatati? I forget what they are. They're the refugees from the Borg. They've basically been... their society's in ruins, and they're refugees, and then they start acting like thieves and stuff like that. And that was more of they became scavengers in that sense, and they were desperate. But in Sanctuary, the people fleeing the Gamma Quadrant were looking for a special planet, and they thought Bajor was that planet. But they got very annoyed when Bajor said, "We've just survived an occupation. We cannot take refugees. We don't feel that it's appropriate," and they were forced to find another one. But they got really pissed off, didn't they? They got really annoyed that the Bajorians wouldn't give them land on their planet. I found that very interesting, and I like some of the parallels that you can draw to other episodes and how other species respond to kindness. It's really weird, really bizarre. Fascination, can tell you, Fascination for me was another miss. And I think the episodes where the crew start, are under some influence, some fever or some viral infection that makes them horny and want to bang each other. You can have some fun with it, but if it's not executed very well, it's not really going to work, is it? And I think that it's not really conducive to a good Star Trek episode, in my opinion. I didn't enjoy that. I don't enjoy those types of episodes. So a lot of people, when it comes to Deep Space Nine, the earlier seasons were the least favourite of them. But generally speaking, Deep Space Nine was like most of the shows, took a while to find its feet, but when it did, I think season 3 is when it really found its feet. And I think, generally speaking, season 3 is when a lot of shows find their feet and become, they evolve. They have a little bit of a play around with certain ideas, certain concepts, and then the shows evolve to something else. So the Next Gen did it, the Voyager did it, Deep Space Nine did it, and Enterprise definitely did it by its 3rd season. It found its footing. No doubt Brandon Bragg wrote that one. I didn't like the episode where they killed Jadzia. I wish she made it to the end of the series. Yeah, there was some kind of hooruckus between Terry Farrell and the runners of the show, the creators of the show. She, from what I've seen on the documentary, she felt like they were pushing her out. They felt like she wanted to go. And it sounded quite messy, actually. And then she decided to leave Deep Space Nine, and we got Ezri Dax. I didn't like the fact that they killed Jadzia off. I liked Jadzia as a character. I thought Ezri wasn't as strong as Jadzia, and the actress who played her, Nicole de Boer, I don't think she was as strong an actress as Terry Farrell with the role. I believe Rick Berman said no to Terry wanting to be on Becca as well as season 7. So yeah, she wanted to go and do other things. There was a lot of conflicts and a lot of probably a lot of emotion up in the air. And she just left. She wanted to do the last season of DS9 and a part in Becca concurrently. There you go. Which I would assume would make her far too busy. That would probably have split the difference a little bit too much there. But then it would have been better than killing the character off, you know. I know it's difficult to get actors in for every episode if they've got other projects to do, and there's a lot of conflicts and scheduling problems that do crop up. But I didn't like the fact that they killed Jadzia. It wasn't one of my favourite points. It's actually really quite sad. But it's more importantly, the impact or the act itself. Dukat was inhabited by a Par-Wraith, and the Par-Wraith killed Jadzia Dax. Worf just goes into a depression that she's not in Stovall and does not seek retribution on Gul Dukat. I always found that very, very, very peculiar. You know, I don't know. Maybe he senses there's no honour in it or whatever. I actually prefer Ezri. I felt she had better writing and character arc, whereas Jadzia at times could be a bit of a Mary Sue. Is that a result of her written as a Mary Sue, or is that the result of the nature of her species being able to somewhat take on the role of a Mary Sue because they've had 7 lifetimes of experience? There could be an interesting point there, Zell. She did have an awful lot of answers, but she was 7 lifetimes wise, I suppose. So you could sort of get away with it. Ezri was a little bit... They wrote her as someone who was struggling to find the balance with the memories and all that experience, as well as integrating to herself, which I thought was an interesting concept, because she wasn't supposed to have the symbiont. Value of Nothing. Hello, how are you, mate? Nicholas, Crosby, McFadden, Muldar, Ferrell. All women who thought the roles were underappreciated. Yeah, Crosby, Denise Crosby, Tasha Yar. Can't say I was a massive fan of the character. She wasn't a great character. The casino episode, the casino heist episode, I thought was really kind of silly. Yeah, that was a bit of fun that didn't need to happen. I didn't. The character of Vic Fontaine, I thought really was mixed, but the best episode with him in is the one with Nog's leg, and where he helps Nog through the trauma of losing his leg. That was really good. Agree that Nikki DeBurr wasn't a great actress in DS9. However, she is great with fans at cons, and so all good. Yeah, exactly. That's about attitude of the individual, isn't it? Being much better with fans, being great with fans, considering fans have gotten you to where you are because they've enjoyed what you've done. Yeah, you're giving them a service of something that can be enjoyed, but fans are supporting you by watching it. And there's kind of a it's only a paper moon. Yeah, thank you. There's kind of a symbiotic relationship there, I suppose, isn't there? But I just do hate it when actors and actresses think they're so freaking great and they end up treating fans badly. I hate that. I also like the fact that Cisco took on a Curzon role with Esri. You know, I never really thought about it like that. It always makes me stop and think. Yeah. I mean, to be fair, there was later on in Deep Space Nine, the later sort of seasons, Cisco kind of did that with Dax in certain circumstances, and I thought that was really, really good because yeah, I agree, Zal, it did go that little bit further. John Chow, I hated Vic as a kid, but on rewatch I really like how they built him into something and how it eventually paid off with some incredible episodes. Yeah, it felt out of place again in a Star Trek show, but he did sort of worm his way in, I suppose, with Deep Space Nine, didn't he? He did become quite a popular character, and I don't know, I quite liked Vic at times. The heist episode was just, I mean, I appreciate what Bashir's friend Felix did of putting a jack in the box in the program, but that could destroy it all. But I think that's kind of sociopathic behaviour. Don't you just think that's kind of wrong? Here's a program where the program is constantly adapting, and you're essentially creating a sentient hologram, and then you design this thing in this jack in the box in the program that could destroy the program if you don't pull off a heist or you don't do something to save it. Clayton, all those 24th century humans who are big time 20th century files, Paris, Bashir, etc. Yeah. Must be like their equivalent to the Renaissance fairs. Yeah. Yeah, I suppose. Paris finds the truck in space. Oh no, they find the truck in space and Paris starts it. We'll get onto that shortly. The heist doesn't work as well as the baseball game episode, but both quasi-period pieces. The baseball game, the baseball game, I kind of liked because it was a bit of fun, and it also sort of gave another sort of shed a bit more light on the Vulcans and how much of a bastard they can be. Zell, right, I've got to shoot as I have music to make and an album to launch to prepare for. Speak to you soon. Much love, everyone. Thank you, Zell. Thank you for coming by. Much appreciated. It's been really great having you here. Best of luck. Hope everything goes okay. Thanks for joining. Yeah. Deep Space Nine, mixed bag. I've got to say, it's really hard to do a stream that's one-sided when you're discussing episodes you don't like, but I really love all the interaction from the chat as well, so that's really good. Deep Space Nine, that's pretty much what I've got. These are the ones that I would skip and not watch again, really, if I'm honest. I just wouldn't go. I also really don't like the Mirror Universe episodes. Really? Well, let's see. You had the first one, which was the crossover one, where with Bashir and Nerys Akira. I thought that was interesting to see what had happened to the Terran Empire. The one that I liked, the Mirror Universe one, I really liked, because the rest are a bit sort of rocky. The one that there was two actually. The one was where Cisco's wife comes over, or he goes to save Cisco's wife, and the second one was when she comes over, and they have to build a Defiant in the Mirror Universe, which I thought was really, it was really cool because you got to see the Defiant do a lot of crazy things. But story-wise, it did have some problems. Yeah, Star Trek goes to that well way too often. Yeah. The Mirror Universe, they needed to kind of stop, I think. The Mirror Universe and Section 31 seems to just be the points that NuTrek just seems to... It's just like bleed nipples. They need to bleed off of this... of these two concepts. But yeah. Shall we move on to Voyager? Does anybody here want to move on to Voyager? We'll move on to Voyager here very shortly. It was interesting ones in TOS, even though the characters exchanging uniforms while being transported is really silly. It's hard to suspend disbelief with the Mirror Universe, like everyone is evil, but they all happen to fall in love with the same partners and have the same children. Yeah. I think we may have discussed this before, Clayton. The Mirror Universe was... It's strange, isn't it? Because the Terran Empire had fallen. And it had fallen after... It had fallen after Kirk arrived, but before the Next Generation era would have started. Okay, so none of that would have happened anyway because it's the Mirror Universe. Dax was still Dax. Cisco was still Cisco. Quark was still Quark. Rom was still Rom. Bashir was still Bashir. They all looked exactly identical. They all got all of these statistical probabilities that would never have happened. All of these outcomes, beg your pardon, all of these outcomes of things, the way things would have happened, it would have been a completely different universe. So yeah, it's very hard to suspend your disbelief because there's no way on earth if Earth, for example, was destroyed or occupied, or there's no way Cisco would have even been born. The fact that Cisco was the emissary and was born of a wormhole alien, who made sure he was conceived. In the Mirror Universe, Cisco wouldn't even exist. Brian wouldn't even exist. None of it would. So yeah, I completely agree, Clayton. My least favourite episode of DS9 is Valiant. Is Mirror Universe Bashir genetically enhanced too? Again, how would that have happened? It wouldn't have happened. He to be fair, it probably explains why he acts like a bit of a moron. But Jimmy 77, your least favourite episode is Valiant. I both liked and disliked Valiant because it was you get to sort of get a teaser for the Defiant being destroyed, I suppose, and what it will look like. But it was a hard episode to swallow, Valiant, because these cadets were granted field commissions. And a series of unfortunate events occurred where all the senior officers and all the actual Starfleet officers who have, or commissioned officers and got the rank, and, you know, they all died, but the cadets were all fine. I found that really to be quite a stretch. And, yeah, it was just crazy. Hated all the main characters are important people. Same with future... Hold on. Future or past episodes. Lux 7 was president. What the fuck? Hated DS9 episode where they make the shuttle pod small as an insect. Really? You hated that one? See, I thought that was one little ship, wasn't it? I thought that was kind of fun because they were visually. I thought it was really impressive, and they did a great job with it. I think that they used the cliche a little bit too much of, oh, let's just reverse it and send it back through the anomaly backwards to make it bigger. You know what I mean? I thought that was... I don't like that cliche. Oh, let's just do it backwards so it will reverse the process. But I liked One Little Ship. It was visually great, and it was funny at times. They had a bit of fun with it. But no, I enjoyed that one. Shall we move on to Voyager? Because we have been streaming for 1 hour and 16 minutes, and there's still 2 shows to go, and then we'll have a general conversation. Voyager, well, obviously the most obvious one is Threshold. I've got to say Threshold. It's been mentioned on these streams before. Threshold has got to be the worst episode of Star Trek. OG Star Trek. It's got to be one. It's got to be one of the worst episodes, at least, in concept, in execution, in the potential problems that it caused for the rest of the series and the humans in general. Value of Nothing, Little Ship was great, but also because it was rare, you wouldn't want to a season of them. Nope. It worked as one episode. You wouldn't want the concept to be repeated, definitely. But yeah, Threshold. Come on. I mean, what were they thinking? What were they thinking? Threshold would have been so much better if the whole ending with Janeway was scrapped for a better ending, with a better ending rhythm. Yeah, completely agree there, Clayton. Threshold was terrible. I didn't like that it was the natural course of evolution for humans. Like, that's how we would eventually evolve, by devolving. How on earth would you call that evolution? Becoming allergic to water, turning into a salamander type creature that clicks and swims, amphibian. That's not advancing human. That's not advancing humans in any kind of meaningful way. That's devolving them, surely. The whole Warp 10 concept as well. And as I mentioned in the previous stream, going from Warp 9.975 to Warp 10, where you're instantly occupying every point in the universe simultaneously. I think it is a little bit of a jump there. Considering, you know, they go from Warp 9.975, 9.89, 9.90, and it keeps going up, and they go, Warp 10! It's like, okay, so where does that sit with Transwarp? Because Voyager's going Warp 9.975 and faster, and then it goes to Warp 10, and suddenly it's just going ping, 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 all the way around the universe. How's that work? Yet Transwarp's faster than Warp, but you're not occupying every point in space in the universe simultaneously. The concept didn't work. The episode didn't work. It was an attempt to be a little bit horror-ish as well, with a bit of body horror with Tom Paris. I think it was just very badly pulled off. Watch Nerd, I didn't like Tuvix. Made no sense to murder him. I liked the episode. But the ending made no sense. And I think that was the point. There was no sense to it. We discussed this in the previous stream as well. Why? Your choice is not. You've got the ability to separate, Tuvok and Neelix again and have them as Tuvok and Neelix. But you've got your problem, and that's Neelix and Tuvok have been fused and created a new life form, something that Starfleet is in the Starfleet Charter, to seek out new life and new civilizations. Their new life sits in Tuvix. He's a new life form. He's an individual with memories of two people. So you spend seemingly weeks, maybe even a month or 2 months, getting to know this person and looking for a way to undo what's been done. You're looking for a way to undo what's been done and revert him back to Tuvok and Neelix. However, the amount of time that was spent trying to find the answer to that problem, compared to the amount of time that was spent trying to solve the new problem that arises because Tuvix doesn't want to die, the contrast is stark. Because it's a case of, well, we need to do this to separate them. Well, I don't want to die. Well, we're going to do it. We're not going to even investigate anything else. Any other possibility of saving your life. No. I found it just so jarring. It was horrible. Janeway gets turned into a salamander, as does, Paris. And they have salamander babies. Kes episodes are worse than Threshold. Kes is a terribly written character, and Neelix is just consistently an annoying character. She wasn't the best actress, but I think now when I rewatch Kes episodes, given what has happened to the actress who plays her since the series, I don't mind as much. Yeah, that was really tragic, what's happened with her. And she is... She's very unwell, bless her. Tuvix makes Janeway look bad. Yeah, absolutely. I didn't care much for 11:59. That is on my list. 11:59 was... Do you reckon that was a budget episode, Clayton? Do you reckon that was budget limitations? I mean, I don't know much about it. I've not read anything about it, but it seems to me they wanted... They had to rein the budget in towards the end of the season. Because wasn't the next one Hope and Fear? Was the next one Hope and Fear? Where they obviously needed a bigger budget. So because it was easier to set it in sort of close to the millennium, I suppose. And it was not a great episode about Janeway's ancestors. And I don't like this in shows where they did Janeway's ancestor and it was just Janeway. They have either budget or they wanted to hook into the millennium. Could have been. But yeah, I don't like it. I don't like Star Trek when they do, they're my ancestor. Let's do a story about Janeway's ancestor. Who are we going to get to play her? Janeway. Like you look even remotely identical to your ancestors. I never liked that in Star Trek. I think if you're gonna do this episode, why don't you get someone in? And I know it's a budget, and I know there's reasons they do it, but I think it's a bit cheap and shit. Get someone who looks a little bit like Janeway. Get an actress that does it. Supernatural did it when they did the younger versions of Sam and Dean. They've got actors in that looked so frigging close to it, and they did a really good job of getting the actors that look close to the actors. It was great. Tuvix is great because people love to argue about it. No one argues about Threshold. Well, I mean, they'll probably do argue about it. They probably argue about how bad it really is. On a scale of 1 to 10, how bad is Threshold, where 1 is bad and 10 is just, oh my god, my eyes pour vinegar into them right now. They probably argue about what scale of bad it is, to be fair. Agree on the ancestor stuff. Even some grandkids only have 25% of the DNA. Yeah. Yeah, why would they look identical? They look nothing like them, really. There'd be hints around the eyes, you know, the facial features, perhaps the build, maybe. But yeah, you're talking about diluted DNA. Someone's going to look less and less and less and less and less and less like someone. I don't like it when they do that. I think it's cheap. So yeah, that's Threshold. I mean, Sacred Ground was another one. Didn't care for that. I don't rewatch that one. Sacred Ground was a bit bad. And not very sciencey, I suppose. And I suppose that was the whole point of the episode, but it wasn't. I don't know. I suppose you could have broke it down into science a little bit more, but I didn't enjoy that episode at all. I didn't like the extreme dual morality and Starfleet extremist decisions of Janeway. Yeah, she was very pressing, wasn't she, with her interpretation of what Starfleet is. She was always so morally superior to everyone else. The perfect example of that is Equinox. You know, she's judging Rudy Ransom for what he's done, and yeah, ethically speaking, it's wrong, and he knows it's wrong, and it's antithetical to everything that Starfleet is. But Rudy Ransom has been through the friggin' ringer by this point. He's on a smaller starship that can't defend himself. He's had to cross through multiple hostile territories, losing half of his crew the first week in the Delta Quadrant. And Janeway's sitting there with it on Voyager, which has got the magic cleanup crew after every episode, and it's essentially in one piece and well put together. So they want to get home. They figure, you know, we are a little ship. We want to get home. But she judges him so aggressively, and it's horrendous in that episode. Is Tattoo on the list? Oh, right there. Tattoo. That is on the list. Alice. Yeah, that's on the list too. That's skippable. Barge of the Dead was kind of blare. I nearly put Barge of the Dead on the list, but I did find the concept interesting. Hated Virtuoso episode just because I'm not a fan of opera. I completely missed that one. Virtuoso, yep. Not really a fan either. Didn't like that. Barge of the Dead, yeah. It was kind of blare. Also, I don't think it was very well followed up on of the concept, and I think they missed a trick there, because with the episode where they finally get to speak to their families and B'Elanna talks to her dad, there's no reference really. It's mildly implied that she's dead. You know, your mother would have loved that, but there's no confirmation. There's none of this. Is my mother dead? Yeah. Well, I saw her on the Barge of the Dead. I had an experience and I saw her on the Barge of the Dead. There could have been some kind of follow on it, but there wasn't. I think my least favourite Voyager episode is Once Upon a Time. That's the shuttle crashing in the soft granite, isn't it? And Naomi Waldman not being told that her mother could be dead. Yeah, that was... there are elements of that episode that I do enjoy. The Flotter and Trevis holodeck thing is a little bit lame, I suppose. It's a little bit lame, I guess. Alice is skippable too. Yeah, that's on there. Sacred Ground was a very weird episode. Completely agree with that. Elysium is... I bet Elysium is on the list as well. It's not. It's not. It was going to be, but I didn't put it on in the end. Because I thought... Sweaty Jennifer Lane with, you know, sort of bits all over her. Yeah, I could watch that again. I'm kidding. No, No. Elosion was okay. It was a good episode in the sense that you could feel for Neelix's choice that he had to make, the choice that Neelix had to make. Look, now's the only time to be a father, your only chance to be a father. If you want to be a father, now is the time. You've got 72 hours or whatever to decide whether you're going to be a dad. It's a good concept. The episode, again, wasn't very pulled off very well, but it was okay. I can re-watch it, so it didn't make the list. Favourite son, that made the list. I'm not sure I could re-watch that. Where, the guys are getting sacrificed to the mating rituals of a female word or whatever. I can't even remember the detailed plot of the storyline. It was just bad. Haunting of Deck 12 has got to be worse than Threshold. It's a lot of Neelix and bratty kids and a pointless story. The Haunting of Deck 12. Wasn't that like Count Mulgrew's most overacted episode? Yeah, I don't like overacting captains. And not sort of, not even when they're cheesy just for the sake of being cheesy, but when they're genuinely overacted. It was like the episode of Deep Space Nine where the Defiant got destroyed, and they tried to really pile on the heavy drama with Avery Brooks giving the order to evacuate, and they almost slowed everything. They kind of made it slow-mo, but they also had him talk very dramatically, like, "Get to the escape pods now." It was just, there was overacting there, and it was very poorly put together. It's the same with Janeway in that episode, where she's just overacted. I didn't like it. It wasn't. It could have been quite a heavily scary and jumpy episode, but it really wasn't. I thought Kes was the weakest character on Voyager, even liked Neelix better than her. Interesting. Kes was okay. I didn't like what they did with her in Fury. Certainly when you're thinking about what happened to the actress. I didn't enjoy Fury at all. Fury is actually on my list. It's right there at the bottom. Fury. I didn't enjoy Fury because I thought, Kes was such a kind, warm-hearted character, and she's been left out in the cold and suddenly starts blaming Voyager for all of her problems, even though she decided to go on this journey. And then she goes back in time and changes Voyager's past, and there was no sort of changes in the future. Voyager had a good portion of its hull ripped off, but there was no consequences to that. Did they lose any crew members? Don't know. I didn't like that in Clayton. I didn't like that in Renaissance Man. The Doctor was willing to get Voyager to give up its warp drive to save Janeway, especially after having the ECH upgrade. Yeah. No consistency there. Renaissance Man was... Wasn't that like the penultimate episode to the two-parter, Renaissance Man? It's where he was having to imitate different members of the crew and put them and knock them out and everything like that, and hide their bodies in the mortuary, which I thought was quite psychotic. Yeah, didn't enjoy that as a penultimate episode. Sure, that was a penultimate one, because it's got I call them the Spud people, because they look like they've got potatoes for heads. Yeah, very weak penultimate episode. Yeah, completely agree. It was the ones from when the Doctor got the ECH upgrade because of those aliens, potato people. I don't think is there actually a name for that race? I'm not sure whether there's a name for that species of alien or not. But they do everything by electronic system don't they? The Q Civil War episode was, but they called them the Hierarchy Aliens. Yeah, I call them Hierarchy Aliens. Yeah. The Hierarchy Zeta people. I get done now for being insensitive. The Q Civil War episode was bad. Yeah. I remember the episode. I'm just trying to think what I thought of it. I liked the female Q. Because she was played by the same person who played, was it Kayla, Worf's mate, Alexander's mum? And she's very good. I was like, what are you doing with that dog? I'm not talking about the puppy. That was good. I liked her. She was all right. But the Civil War wasn't. I don't think it was very well represented. I think they should have shown what a Q weapon would do to a human. That would have been interesting. But I think it was, I don't think it was massively well executed. And I didn't buy Q as I didn't buy the role that he was playing in that episode. I didn't buy it. I don't know why. I just didn't buy it. Q being a revolutionary and everything like that. He's more of an anarchist than a revolutionist, I suppose. The disease, I didn't enjoy the disease. That's also on my list. Again, it was an interesting concept, but I don't think it was very well executed. Harry Kim episodes are rough to get through. Scientific method. Somebody's mentioned scientific method. Step Sergio has mentioned scientific method. That was the first episode that I saw of season 3. No, season 4. I beg your pardon. It was season 4. The first episode I seen of season 4, and I was currently on the run up to Basics Part 1 because, obviously being in England, we didn't get the episodes as quickly as the Americans got the episode. And terrestrial TV didn't get the episodes as quickly as Sky got the episodes. So we have a company over here called Sky. And that's essentially cable rather than broadcast signal TV. And Sky 1 would always get the new episodes of Voyager. So we were always behind. We never had Sky. We only had the BBC. And the BBC only aired an episode every Sunday. So, Scientific Method was the first I saw of the later seasons, and I absolutely loved it. I thought everything looked cleaner, crisper. You could tell the difference. There's such a stark difference between where I was with Voyager and where it was with Scientific Method. We were a full season behind. That was crazy. Excuse me. But no, Scientific Method was a good one. It was a great mystery, and wasn't it so eerie having those aliens just working cloaked, but only Seven could see them, and there's one of them probing her, and she has to remain completely still, like she doesn't even notice them. Great early 7 and 9 episode, I thought. Was good. Harry Kim episode. Garrett Wang is not a good actor. He's another one who is awesome with fans, and he has a lot of love for the franchise, but he's not a good actor. Well, I always think that if you're a really good actor, you'll get other work and you become recognised. A lot of Star Trek actors don't generally do that. He's no Jeffrey Combs, is he? For sure. But I think the character of Harry Kim wasn't all that bad in certain ways. He was okay. Just wait till you get to "And the Children Shall Lead" in TOS all-time worst Trek. I'm looking forward to that one. All the Children Shall Lead. I'll look out for that one when I do my revisit. Sky was always so expensive. Just another watch nerd. We never had it when I was a kid. Also watched Trek on the BBC. Yeah, that's pretty much the only way we could watch Star Trek. certainly in the 90s, was the BBC. And it would always air. I remember The Next Generation aired on a Wednesday, I believe, at 6 o'clock, alongside with The Simpsons. And Star Trek Voyager was a Sunday evening around 6 or 7 o'clock. We'd always used to gather around and watch Star Trek Voyager. Deep Space Nine was the BBC on Wednesday again. But I think didn't they do a time when they did episodes back to back? So The Next Generation and then Deep Space Nine. I can't remember. But yeah, Sky was so expensive, and Sky is expensive nowadays anyway. But Sky One was the place to watch Star Trek. It just had adverts in it, which was annoying. Can't remember who came with the idea of Seven, but kudos to him, save the series. Yeah, it did. 7 of 9. I can't imagine why 7 of 9 would save the series. I think favourite son is one where Harry Kim gets kidnapped by beautiful alien women. It's utterly unbelievable and ridiculous. It's utterly unbelievable and ridiculous that they want Harry Kim and not Tom Paris, for example, or Chakotay. But no, just Harry. Let's have Harry. Yes, I think DS9 was Thursdays. Yeah, Thursdays. Thursdays, was it? Was it really? DS9 was Thursday. You know what? That does ring a bell. I don't think there are episodes I really disliked when I watched them the first time. The problem starts when I'm watching them again, and I think that's true of any episode that doesn't hit the mark with you. Because yeah, you go back and watch them, and you see him faults, you're like, oh, I didn't see that before. Concerning Flight was skippable, though I do love John Rhys Davies. I thought John Rhys Davies was a great addition, and he fit the character of Leonardo da Vinci so well. He played him so well. But yeah, Concerning Flight was... I had problems with Concerning Flight because the computer core of Voyager gets stolen, and all this technology gets stolen, and they're like, no, we must recover our technology. Our technology does not fall into alien hands, and it's a big staple of Voyager. And then Chakotay is just like, yeah, you got yourself a Starfleet uniform, a Starfleet pulse rifle or phase rifle or whatever it is, and you've got loads of Starfleet weaponry. Yeah, you can just keep all that. We're not looking for trouble. We just want to find our computer core because that's most valuable. They've had supplies stolen, tricorder stolen, lab equipment stolen, the Doctor's mobile emitter stolen, which is 29th century technology. You really want that falling into other people's hands? I mean, I know it'd be really difficult to gather it all up again after it's been stolen, but it just, it wound me up, that episode, and I think it would wind a lot of people up, that episode. Too much bloody time spent on the holodeck. Yeah, but when you're not doing an alien episode or an alien planet episode, you have to do a few holodeck episodes because they're in the Delta Quadrant. It's not like you can have them stop off at a star base or something. So I do understand why they had the holodeck episodes, but the holodeck episodes varied in quality. I kind of liked the Captain Proton stuff to a degree. The Fairhaven stuff, to me, Fairhaven was a one episode thing. It should have been a one episode thing. I also hated Fairhaven. It looked like a Jane Austen novel. Bernie Gannon. Take Me Out to the Holosuite broke new ground in Stupid for me. It was universe destroying, a comedy skit played for real. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Holodeck episodes are real toughies, because you can do anything on the holodeck, anything. And some of the things it's that early Voyager they had. What was it? Pride and Prejudice, essentially, didn't they? That sort of thing, and it never really worked for me. It was great when two Star Trek shows ran concurrently during the 1990s. Yeah, they could bounce off each other and play off each other. That was really very entertaining. It was nice to see the crossover episodes as well, and to be able to experience those crossover episodes. And the 90s was big on crossover episodes, because you had shows like Buffy and Angel that would cross over with one another all the time. The Stargate shows, the earlier ones, they crossed over with each other all the time, and it meant that you had to put some work into these crossovers, but when they happened, they were worth it, rather than what Strange New Worlds did and just did a crossover episode just for the sake of it, which was lousy and lame. It was horrendous. There is an honourable mention episode that I'm going to put in to the Voyager bracket. And I hate this one because, I mean, there was only one thing I like about it, and that's it because it's a follow-up to a Next Gen episode, is False Prophets. False Prophets wound me up immensely. It made me shout at the television. Because it's a follow-up episode to the Barzan wormhole episode, The Price from the Next Generation. That was awful. And the reason it broke all sense of logic for me is because Janeway's determined to get her crew home. Determined to get her crew home. And she has the opportunity. She's stabilized the Delta Quadrant end of the Barzan wormhole, and she can get her ship through that fucking wormhole and get back home right there, right then. And it's open for what? It's got to be hours. This wormhole is stable, and they schedule a time to go through the wormhole. No. You've got a Ferengi problem with Ferengi exploiting the people on the planet, and the Ferengi managed to convince Captain Janeway that she has to send the Ferengi back because of the consequences to the planet. How about cleaning up the Federation's fucking mess for the Ferengi being there in the fucking first place? Pardon my French, there's going to be a lot of swearing. I didn't realise I felt quite so strongly about this. She should have. She scooped the Ferengi up. They should have been put in the brig and kept there. And she should have gone through the wormhole and said, "By the way, we've been on an adventure in the Delta Quadrant. Here's these two Ferengi that have caused no end of problems." And they've stabilised the Delta Quadrant into the Barzan wormhole. They could take that back to Starfleet and say, "Right, okay, well, we need to look at stabilising this wormhole permanently." You know, but the Ferengi end up screwing everything up. They get back to the Alpha Quadrant, and Voyager doesn't, and it's another missed opportunity. But what annoys me is they had the damn thing there. It was a wormhole back to the Alpha Quadrant, and they don't take it. Or it takes way too long for them to actually take it. Drove me up the freaking wall, and I'm thinking, just scoop the damn Ferengi up, get yourselves home. But of course, obviously, they didn't write that way, because then we wouldn't have, 4 more years in the Delta Quadrant and all these interesting stories we can tell. It just frustrated the crap out of me. I'm thinking, if you're going to do the Barzan wormhole episode, you do that and you make it a very clever episode where they get home. They use that to get home, not the Borg nonsense. The Ferengi were funny, but it added to all the frustration. The boxing and fighting episodes, the wrestling one and the boxing one, Stepan, I have absolutely no interest in rewatching those. They are just not my cup of tea. I don't do boxing and I don't do wrestling. It's just those ones. If that's the ones you're referencing, is the fight. I imagine that's the ones you're referencing. The fighting ones, no, I've just got no interest. I've seen them once and I do not want. Just another watch nerd. I have really such fond memories of watching DS9 and Voyager on the BBC as a kid. Thank you for reminding me, Mr. Dangerman. Oh, you're very welcome. I'm very glad I could bring you back or take you back. That was certainly my childhood, watching Star Trek. was almost a family thing, although not all of my family enjoyed Star Trek. It was a thing where I got an hour of television, or 45 minutes at least, of television time where everybody sat and watched something I wanted to watch, and that was really, really special to me. Because I had two sisters, you can imagine what nonsense I had to watch growing up. And there was always a fight between, I'll tell you this now, there was always a fight between me and my elder sister about who gets TV time at 6 o'clock. Because on Wednesday, 6 o'clock meant Star Trek The Next Generation. But unfortunately, 6 o'clock on a Wednesday, or 6 o'clock every day, also meant Home and Away, which I always had a battle with my sister as to who gets to watch what. Thankfully, we managed to, there was a second TV in the house eventually, and we managed to split the difference. But, oh God, I had to sit there and endure Home and Away, Neighbours, Emmerdale, EastEnders, and all these different soaps that I hate. I don't watch them. I hate them. And that more than often meant that I couldn't watch The Next Generation, but we could record it. Bride of Chaotica was so overacted, but I like the idea of photonic aliens encountered in the holodeck that couldn't recognise regular matter. Yeah, that was an interesting concept, and I think they gave the cast a little bit of a chance to mess around. But I didn't enjoy the episode that much. I can watch it, but the callback to the 50s silly kind of 40s and 50s style of sci-fi I thought was really good for one episode, but to do follow-up episodes was silly. Stepan, yeah, the fight is the boxing one. Yeah, not interested. Sunsucky or whatever it is with The Rock was so dumb. Yep, not interested. Oh, you've kidnapped a member of the Voyager crew to put them in a ring and fight The Rock. Oh, great. Bitter irony that the Ferengi get back, but not Voyager. Yeah, it was. It was very bitter, and I felt it was just unnecessary. But the Ferengi are not Federation, so she had no right to intervene. I think the point there was the fact that the Federation were hosting the talks and allowed, or that they made it so the Ferengi could be part of the expedition and the acquisition of the wormhole, or the acquisition to the rights to the wormhole, and the Federation were the ones who were arbitrating that, so the Federation were somewhat responsible for the Ferengi ending up there in the first place. I think that was Janeway's point, or whatever. It was a case of even if you just say, right, okay, we know that the end of this Barzan wormhole, once every 7 years, it moves around. We've stabilised it for now. We'll go back through the wormhole with the Ferengi, and we'll revisit. The damage is already done. We've just got to get them off that planet because they're exploiting innocent people, and that goes against Federation values. Seems like a few of these episodes you guys have mentioned, maybe not loved, but at least liked. The ones on my list I really don't like, and I couldn't be bothered to watch again. But some of them are being mentioned here that you don't like them, or you don't love them. But yeah, they are a little bit like, or they have some redeeming qualities. But all the ones on my list, I've no interest in watching again. There were plenty of episodes that were of the dookie variety, though. I liked One Small Step, but the fact that human garbage keeps showing up in the Delta Quadrant right where Voyager happens to be, I guess, a little cliche. We're talking like Ford farming trucks. This just happens to be in Voyager's path. Yeah, brilliant. I still love Voyager. Voyager had the strongest first season of any Trek. I'm finding it hard to disagree with that at a moment's thought, I suppose. I can't remember the difference between Juggernaut and Dreadnought. Yeah, they were essentially the same episode, just set on different ships, weren't they? One was set on a weapon, Cardassian weapon, and the other one was set on a Malon ship. Yeah, I can agree with that. I can't remember the difference. Probably because there is no difference. I also have on my list, and this is the last one of the Voyager on my list. And then we'll get on to Enterprise. This nearly 2-hour stream. Fucking hell. Right. The last one on my list is ironically the last ever Voyager episode, Endgame. I did not like Endgame. Willow Falls. I thought Enterprise has a good first season. We'll discuss that in a moment. I love Voyager, the Voyager episode Real Life. Yeah, that is one of my favourite episodes. But I'm not talking about my favourite episodes. That one makes me cry every time. It really does. It's such... Real Life is a great episode. I'll probably talk about Real Life with Clayton next week at some point. It will definitely go on my list. I will make a note, actually, of that to talk about that. Real Life. Yeah, I want to talk about the Voyager final episode. I discussed this a little bit last week, so bear with me. The Voyager finale was terrible, in my opinion. Terrible. Because we get a false epilogue, something that never happened, and I hate false epilogues. Can't stand them. I felt cheated. Absolutely cheated of a real ending for Voyager, because we got a possible ending that never actually happened. And then that's at the beginning of the episode. So we're already in the future. Voyager's been home 20 years or whatever it is. And then they go back and try and change it. I just think that's a bit of a freaking ridiculous thing. And time travel is always the cop-out. I love the episode where they built the Delta Flyer but hated 1159. Yeah, I agree with that. I loved Endgame when they activated the armor. It looked cool. Yeah, superficially it looked okay. The armor was interesting. The advances in technology was interesting, but it wasn't, I think, wasn't a great episode. The false epilogue could have been redeemed if we got to the fixed epilogue after they got home. Exactly, yeah. You see how it could have turned out versus how it did turn out. I completely agree. Voyager finale was awful, you're right. The date with Seven and Chakotay was max level cringe and completely unbelievable. Yeah, I never bought Seven and Chakotay as a couple. Never. You never showed not even the slightest inkling of interest. You had Harry Kim, who was following around like a freaking mad puppy when she first got around, and ended up actually going, actually, I don't think I like you very much. And you got the Doctor, who was clearly developing sort of digital feelings for her. I only hated Endgame. This is Stefan again. I only hated Endgame because they made the Borg useless with the technology that they brought. Yeah, they proper plot armored the Voyager, didn't they? Although I did like that the Borg finally was adapting to it. But you think of all the lives that are going to be changed because Voyager got home early. The babies that will never be born, the people that will never meet. You know, and now the Borg are adapted to the Federation's technology. Yeah, okay, the Borg haven't been destroyed, but they've been quite badly damaged. But at the same time, they've already adapted to the future tech. Or we've adapted to your warheads just before the Queen dies. I guess a couple of dates with Chakotay turned her into a lesbian. Now, you see, wouldn't it have been even more funny if a couple of dates with Harry Kim had turned her into a lesbian? You're right, Clayton. That was hilarious. So, yeah, I did not enjoy the final episode of Voyager. I don't like the time travel aspects. It worked in All Good Things because it was another lesson for McHugh, and it capped off the series quite nicely. I loved All Good Things, and I will be talking about that with Clayton, obviously, in the next stream. All Good Things. I'll follow up with that. Seven and Chakotay had no romance built up. Same with Troy and Worf. Yeah, it was literally for some reason they decided, oh, let's just, you know, have these two characters together. That's a great point, Danger Man. Voyager has spent 15 more years in the Delta Quadrant and presumably met and helped other aliens. Yeah, yeah, absolutely, Clayton. The consequences of Janeway's decision, because she had a few boo-boos about losing a few members of her crew, and Tuvok going mad in an old people's home and suffering from Vulcan dementia, to 7 of 9 dying on an away mission, and Chakotay never being the same again, but they've all got home. It was a brutal slog. It sounds like It sounds like what they went through to get home should have been what Voyager actually went through to get home. But because she wanted the easy fix and wanted to get her crew home quicker, she sacrificed the lives of how many people? What I think is the ultimate Janeway murder, I suppose, for people who never existed in the first place, so you couldn't count it as murder, but still, the amount she would have changed, the amount of people she would have affected, the quadrant, the galaxy would have been affected by that decision. I mean, you could make the same argument about the episode. One of my other favourite episodes, which I'll talk about, is Timeless, which is a great episode. And you could say the same thing about Harry Kim making the decision in Timeless that meant the deaths of all those, crew members, and obviously Captain LaForge wanting to save so many lives, or protect history in the way it turned out. You say, well, it's an alternate version, an alternate history. But I think for a finale, though, I mean, that was okay because we needed the series to continue, but I think for a finale for Voyager, that in a future that Voyager had an ending, for her to go back and change it and potentially affect the Federation in ways that are so many ways that are unpredictable. And it takes me back to the Orville episode, and I rewatched this recently, and I had a bloody experience with it because I loved that episode. It's the one where Gordon goes back in time and meets the woman that he fell in love with on the phone, and he builds a life with her, and the implications of that, and the fact that Mercer comes back with the crew. They travel back, and they have to put their foot down with him and say, "You've created this life. You could destroy the future. We have to take you back." And what they do, I won't spoil it for anyone who's not seen it, but it was a superb episode, and that's the perspective that Janeway should have had. But no, it's my crew suffered, my crew, certain members of my crew died, so I'm going to affect the entire galaxy. It was a ridiculous episode. But it didn't lose more than half the crew. The Harry time travel episode, if they made it home on their own. Yeah, no, it's a fair point. Chuck Jones, at least with Troy Worf, had seen other universes where he was in a relationship with her and made her rethink. Yeah, I agree with that. Best romance in Trek was Paris and Torres. Yeah, I can agree with that. There was, I think it was the funniest, most realistic one, and it spoke to humans and Klingons having relationships and how difficult and challenging that would be. You imagine how difficult that would be if one of you was a Klingon and one of you was a human. Not only the anatomical problems, Paris only has one. Does she have room for two? Sorry, I've just really dropped the tone down. It's probably what happened on the last stream. It got toned down, okay? It's not my fault. Just another watch note, Clayton. Just another watch note. It hurts to think about it from a writing character development perspective, yeah? Voyager was a great missed opportunity. Completely agree. There was so much they could do with that idea, but they didn't do it. Not a bad episode, but Lieutenant Carey's death was really empty. Yeah, hollow. The guy had been missing for seasons and seasons. Apparently, still there. They bring him back for one episode. It's like, boy, we're going to kill you. You're not going to make it home. Yeah, bloody empty. Ridiculous it was. Voyager saved some people, but she doomed some more with her interventions. That's true, but that's only what we saw on screen. What happened after Renaissance Man and before the future in Endgame? That would have been interesting to see how many more civilizations she would have eradicated by accident or even on purpose. Maybe there's a planet full of Tuvixes. You never know. Voyager should have discovered the way home themselves and end it in 2 to 3 episodes. You know, 2 to 3 episodes after the pilot, or 2 to 3 episodes in the end, and have it be an extended 3-episode arc where they got themselves. Yeah, that could have done. Voyager would have been a completely different show if it had been Cisco and the Defiant lost in the Delta Quadrant. It would have been, yeah, Willow Falls. I would say that it would have probably been very much like the Equinox, I suppose. T'Pol and Archer was a nice romance. Better than T'Pol and Tucker. Yeah, Enterprise. I think we should get on to Enterprise. That's a good segue to do the final show. Enterprise. I liked Enterprise. It's a good show. I thought it was a good Star Trek show as well. It worked. I think it worked. You know, it had its problems, it had its ups and downs, but I liked it. And I liked the beginning intro music. I really did. But it had its poopers. And I have more than 4 or 5 here. I mean, I can see what they were doing with Enterprise. They set it, they make it a bit of a Kirk-esque feel because it was set before Kirk. I liked Archer as a captain, but he was a very very primitive, I suppose. So Equinox, I hated Enterprise. Oh, that's a shame. Just not a watch nerd. As a general comment on Enterprise, excuse me, I think Jolene Blalock took a while to grow into her character. Is that accurate though, or is it they took time to write her character as something other than someone with a stick up their arse? I suppose it's a mixture of the two. You could always. I hated Archer's dog. Oh no, Sir Equinox, really? I loved Porthos, but then I like beagles. I think they're just cute. I liked Porthos. I also like the fact that Archer did not have the foresight to think that maybe Porthos would piss on a alien tree that's sacred to people. It's just the fact that they didn't. It's just the fact that they didn't. They never thought, "Oh, we're going down to a planet. Let's take the beagle with us for a walk on this alien planet with all these alien parasites that can kill the dog." And the dog, would piss on a tree and piss people off. I always thought that was funny. The intro was the worst. I skip it all the time. The intro was like Marmite to Star Trek fans. You either loved it or you hated it. And I thought this after season 3, the intro was really good. And I thought I liked how it progressed human space exploration and visualized the progression from the very early days of aviation all the way up to the time of Enterprise. I quite liked it. Exile is my least favourite episode. I've attempted to watch it multiple times. I can never make it all the way through. Exile, that was the one with the alien, with the spiky things, and he was in exile and he's talking to Hoshi remotely. That one was an odd one. Clayton, I liked Enterprise because I was at the lower end of the ages of the younger crew. So these were like my peers being led by someone from my dad's generation. That's a good point, yeah. I liked it because it was a bit... It was different. And it wasn't so... everything in Enterprise kind of made sense. I loved the fact that in the pilot episode they had doors like you and I open. You know, it was much closer to us than Star Trek was, and it was a great way to try and bring elements of Star Trek to us. Enterprise turned Vulcans into villains. Yes, it did, but towards the end of Enterprise, they tamed them down, and sort of you were able to understand some of the choices that they made, and you also understood where a lot of the animosity came from. And I think season 4 did more for Vulcans in Enterprise than any other season. I thought season 4 was absolutely brilliant as a series of television. Hated Extinction and Terra Nova. Extinction is on my list. Terra Nova is not. I quite liked it, but it was... Enterprise had this problem quite a lot, where it was derivative of other episodes of Star Trek and other episodes of television. It was when Star Trek was getting stale. Certain episodes of Enterprise certainly had that. The Vulcans equals villain aspect was actually explored and explained and resolved over the 4 seasons in a brilliant way. Clayton, you and I, when we talk, I feel like I'm speaking to a kindred spirit. Absolutely, completely agree. And I'm looking forward to the stream next week. I still listen to it a lot. I like the song. Listen to it today, actually. Again, it was Marmite. You either loved it or you hated it. I liked it. I thought it was a different take. I loved Porthos, just another watch nerd. I loved Porthos, such a cutie, but I love dogs in general. Same here, mate. Enterprise was a good show in general. Yeah, it was. To me, it was. The Vulcans did get redeemed because of the season 4 Vulcan trilogy. Yep, I already made reference to that. Brilliant. I really love Enterprise, a time where they still had to discover technology that ships aren't more powerful than the entire planet. Yeah, they were quite limited. Let me go through some of the episodes that I didn't like. Rogue Planet. I had problems with Rogue Planet. Because the planet's been rogue for how long? Eons. And it's got no sun to warm it. Yeah, okay, it may have a nice warm core, but we all know what happens if the sun turns off. Or, rogue planets. Rogue planets are just... rogue planets are just... They're just going to be ice blocks at this point. But Rogue Planet made no sense whatsoever, and it was a bit of a poor story. It's a red hot jungle. It's like, where's the humidity coming from? There's no sun to generate any kind of atmospheric pressure. It's nuts, absolutely nuts. It should be a frozen wasteland. I'll catch up with comments in a moment. Vanishing Point. Did not enjoy Vanishing Point. I think another transporter story, kind of in the area of Realm of Fear. I liked Realm of Fear from The Next Generation. It was a good episode, but yeah, it wasn't good. Wasn't a good episode. Precious Cargo. No. Extinction. Rajin. Hatchery. Daedalus. Season 4 was interesting because most of the standalone episodes were shit. The multi-parters were really good. Daedalus, Bound, and These Are the Voyages. That's my list. That is my list of Enterprise. And like I said, the standalone episodes of season 4 were just atrocious. And Phlox the Denobulan, named after a flower and a race which sounds like it removes protuberances. I loved Phlox as a Doctor. I really did. Enterprise, I think Phlox was one of my favourite Doctors, for sure. Terra Nova was a weak episode, but still watchable. Fortunate Son was boring. That was the cargo ship one, wasn't it? The cargo ship ones are a bit dull, I must admit. I hear his episode of Enterprise almost made Jeffrey Dean Morgan give up acting because of all the makeup. I mean, that's going to be a makeup problem. You probably shouldn't take roles with makeup on then. Even the worst Enterprise episodes were really entertaining. The visuals were much better than anything before, and there's a lot of suspense and action. Yeah, Enterprise was the first show shot in HD, if I remember correctly. Acquisition should never have been done. Well, yeah, it's kind of canon breaking, that one, because we meet the Ferengi when we're not supposed to have met the Ferengi yet. It was an interesting way to introduce the Ferengi, but it was not pulled off very well. It was nice to see Ethan Phillips play a Ferengi. And if you recall, his character looks precisely like made up to Ferengi Neelix in False Prophets. It's just the same character. I found that quite funny. Clint Howard was in it as well. I loved the actors did very well with the episode, but it should probably have never been done. Not in a prequel. Never understood why the Vulcans dictate policy for Earth. Well, thinking about it this way, if you were a technologically advanced civilization and you come across humans who have just built this experimental warship, they've just gone, they've discovered warp drive, they're about to join the galaxy, and you've got to guide them to stop them from destroying themselves, you would be, in my opinion, you would probably be an authority. And I think that's where that comes from. I do agree with it. They saw how we handled it. Yeah, I think Extinction is my least favourite episode. Enterprise episode, aside from These Are the Voyagers. Yeah, These Are the Voyagers was... Let's not mention These Are the Voyagers. Sorry, already done it. These Are the Voyagers was probably one of the worst episodes of Star Trek ever made. Hated the song when I first heard it, but after hearing it for a few seasons, yeah, I still hated it. Bound was like a mud episode without mud, yeah. Maybe let's do... This is the video for it. Let's do This to the Voyagers. I'll get to it in a moment. The Enterprise intro should have been Archer's theme, in my honest opinion, yeah. Vanishing Point was bad, yep. Finally... The finale was the absolute worst. They even killed off beloved characters off screen. Yep. The worst episode of Star Trek Enterprise is A Night in Sickbay, followed by Bound. Didn't like Canamar. These are the Voyagers. You can see some of the actors like Johnny Black and Scott Bakula are not happy with the script. I don't blame them. Loved the Vulcan ship design in Enterprise and the Hook tractor beam. Yeah. So these are the Voyagers. I think a weakness of Enterprise was the continuing and recurring hubris of the humans. There are a few times where Archer has moments of clarity, but then falls back into old habits in the future. Yeah, not much character development there. Not much growth as a captain. They focused on making him a bit of a world-weary captain by the end. I don't know whether you agree, Clayton. He was very world-weary by the end. And he is almost like all the negativity is what sparked his experience, rather than space exploration and space, the wonders of exploration. It was almost like his entire character development was based off the fact that he had to do all these dark things in the Expanse, and that guided him rather than evolving him to include those things, but to give him an ultimately positive outlook. Acquisition probably shouldn't have been done, but the Ferengi were never specifically mentioned in the episode, so it technically didn't break canon. Yeah, I mean, there's that point, I suppose, that they're never sort of referenced as the Ferengi, but there would be visual records, there'd be accounts, there'd be reports, and in the early Star Trek universe, just where is Ferengi in geographically speaking? I say geographically, coordinates wise, how far away are they? Where would they have would they have interacted with the Federation again? It's not canon breaking, but it's straddling the line, I think. So these are the Voyagers. These are the Voyagers made my wife's head explode. These are the Voyagers made me actually really dislike Star Trek and agree that it needed to be mothballed for a little bit. Yeah, they seem to go out of their way to avoid saying Ferengi in acquisition. Yeah, they do. And these are the Voyagers. Problems I have with these are the Voyagers. Where do I start? One, it damages a very, very good episode of The Next Generation. The Pegasus is one of my favourite episodes. I think that was one of the best. I will be talking about it with Clayton next week. The Pegasus was a superb episode, and they retconned it slightly and did a self-insert of this episode, or of that episode, into this. They did a self-insert, not a self-insert. It's just they tried to bridge something that wasn't there. All the actors have gotten older. Didn't look right. Looked ridiculous. The sets, to me, looked way too colourful. It's like the doors looked too orange. The carpet looked too green. Troy's uniform looked green, not blue. Troy looked like she'd had about 10 years of surgery. So did Frakes, to be fair. Something just seemed off with it all. So it mars, to me, it mars that episode of the Pegasus. Because what we had was all the realization that Riker needed within that episode. It was all contained within that episode. We didn't need any more context to it. He made the decision based on things that had happened in that episode, and he came to the conclusions himself. But getting back to Enterprise, that episode denied the cast who had worked their asses off for 4 years, 4 seasons of television. They've worked their arse off. And it denied those characters any form of closure. It was also a one-parter, where most finales are a two-parter. This is why I claim Terra Nova as the official, or the unofficial ending to Enterprise. It was horrendous. They say it was a love letter to fans. Well, it wasn't. It wasn't, and it certainly didn't come across that way. Rick Berman now, since obviously said it's not. We apologise. They've apologised for it several times. I'm not expecting any more apologies. That what happened. We can just not watch it and just discount it. These are Voyager's non-canon. I've just seen a comment there. Yeah, it's true. It's non-canon. They killed off a main character just for the shock value of it all. They killed off a main character. They didn't need to. They didn't need to do any of it. And right to when we get to the satisfying, or supposed to be satisfying end to that to that series, where we see the thing that we've been leading up to, the signing of the Federation Charter. It cuts back to Riker and Troy, and he says, "I think I need to go and tell Captain Picard about the Admiral Pressman and all of that stuff." and then we don't see it. They end the program and it's done, and then it goes through. It was supposed to be a loving tribute to all the Enterprises and stuff like that. It's like I left it feeling hollow. I left that episode feeling hollow and empty inside. And it's the only episode of Star Trek that has left me feeling empty inside. And that's why I left it till last, not only because it's chronologically last, but also because it is the worst episode of Star Trek. Original, OG Star Trek. It is the worst. It fails on so many levels, and it's insulting to the fans. It was horrendous, horrific, and I'm just It was just so bad, so poorly conceived. It's missed the mark. It makes me so sad and so angry. Can't remember, but meeting the Klingon, wasn't it done later? Possibly. I'm not really sure how what Riker was watching helped him with the Pegasus problem. Exactly, Clayton. Yeah, it's like, look, what correlation does that have? Riker's speaking to the crew of the NX-01 about duty and about not hiding things from your captain and about this situation that is in. There's no correlation and no parallels. Trip's sacrifice means nothing in the world of Riker. What I'll end up having an aneurysm by the end of this stream if I try and get my head around what it was supposed to be saying. It's ridiculous. The showrunner said that These Are the Voyagers was an epilogue, and that the finale was really the episode before, which was a great episode. Terra Prime was fantastic. That two-parter was brilliant. Robbing us of Archer's speech that lays the groundwork for the Federation is unforgivable. At that point, Clayton, do you not think that they may have just checked out? They really just checked out. They thought, we could write a epic ending and a bit epic speech, but we're the first Star Trek show in 30-40 years to get cancelled. Maybe we just give up, because they were all done with it. They all moved on to different things, and they just didn't care anymore. That's how it seems to me. They just didn't give a flying toss anymore about it, so they just didn't care. They just didn't do anything. It was a Dear John letter to the fans. A Dear John letter, yeah. It wasn't a love letter. It was Dear John. Yeah, Will Falls, laugh out loud. Yeah, good. The Pegasus problem clearly weighed heavily on Commander Riker. He looked a good 10 years older. Yeah, that's very true. Just another watch nerd, I suppose. Batman had his heart in the right place with TATV. And he TAV? Berman. I said Batman. Did I say Batman? No way. I suppose Berman... Batman. That's how I'm going to refer to him now. I'm Berman. Had his heart in the right place with These Are the Voyagers. Any pre-2005 Trek bar. These Are the Voyagers is canon to me. I think I just skip it. Because it's just not worth it anymore. I've watched it 3 times since it aired. One with the wife, one on my own. I think they hoped for a new season. I think we all hoped for another season of Enterprise, but we didn't get it. So there you go. Those were my picks of pretty much the worst of Star Trek. I obviously haven't included anything NuTrek, because that in itself has kept my channel going for all these years. Just NuTrek being so god awful and so ridiculous. But the whole point about this stream was to reinforce the fact that I do not look at Star Trek with rose-tinted glasses. Ever. I don't view Star Trek that way. I know it's flawed, I know it's got its problems, but it also has some pretty damn good episodes, and that's what the next stream will be about, is the best episodes, our favourite picks, and why they're our favourite picks. and the stories that have been told. I mean, it's nothing that hasn't been done on YouTube 100 times, but it's good for us to have a chat about it. I'm looking forward to that. But I think those episodes, the episodes that I've mentioned, just amongst some of the weakest. Now, I could have gone into great detail, but that's YouTube video stuff, that is. And it's very difficult to go through a lot of this stuff without, you know, having someone directly to bounce off of. That's what conversation is. But I love talking to the chat. I will continue the stream for another 10 or 15 minutes. If anybody's got anything they want to say to me, anything that they want to bring up, anything that they'd like to put, I'm basically here to have a chat with. It's not been the best stream, I know, but it's been a lot of fun for me. Hopefully it's been fun for you too. If old Trek is dear John letter to the fans, new Trek is a fuck you letter to the fans. Yeah, that's very true. Not all of old Trek, just that one episode. I'd rather watch the worst episodes of classic Trek than any of Kirkman's era Trek. Isn't that so true? I completely agree with that one, my friend. I completely agree. It was new Trek is something terrible. Something terrible. I realised on the stream the chat's kind of cut off a little bit. There you go, it's coming up. What's your Clayton? Good question. What's your favourite Star Trek episode overall? It's a toss-up. That's a toss-up. Because there are a few. The Inner Light, I think, is a superb and well-written and well-directed and well-acted episode. Is probably one of my favourites. The Inner Light, Real Life, as was mentioned earlier, Real Life from Voyager, that was a superb episode. And The Visitor was also a really, really good episode. Those are probably my three. And it would be level pegging with those three, I think. There are some great episodes out there, but those are the three that always stick with me. Is the Inner Light, just because of the concept and the execution, and it was so really done. It was so really well done. The Visitor, because you can't say fairer than Tony Todd, and he did a superb job, and so did Avery Brooks on that one. Great concept, great episode, and whatever you think of Robert Picardo, he's a goofy actor, really. He's always been a goofy actor, and he's always done goofy stuff. And his portrayal of the Doctor is mixed. There are some episodes that are great, some episodes that are not so great. And his appearance in other TV shows, SG-1 and everything, he's always been a bit loopy and a bit sort of bland. But I can tell you, I can safely say that Real Life is one of my favourite Voyager episodes and one of my favourite all-time episodes. He does a superb job in that. The actors playing the family are all just superb. The family is so realistic by the time B'Elanna's done with them. And what's a good story? What makes a good story? A bit of tragedy. And that episode was... It reduces me to a blubbering mess every single time, as does The Visitor, as does The Inner Light. Yeah, I can judge those as being a great episodes of television. If you're talking about Star Trek episodes in terms of what's the best sci-fi, you can judge it any which way you want. What's the best tech episode? Well, One Little Ship was great because you got a ship going around inside a ship, flying around, firing little tiny photon torpedoes at Jem'Hadar soldiers, which was really quite interesting to see. You had Disaster, which the Enterprise got absolutely obliterated, but you didn't really see much of the damage, but it didn't matter because the concept was there and it was implied damage. Then you got Year of Hell, which the Voyager gets absolutely battered. You know, all these great sci-fi element shows. But my favourite ones are the story episodes. And The Inner Light was probably my favourite. Great question, a long answer. I do apologise. I fell off after the end of Discovery's second season, so I haven't seen anything after that, except for the first episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. Had to at least see what it was like. Yeah, I got lambasted for my opinion on the first episode of Strange New Worlds. I did not enjoy it. And it wasn't very good. And Discovery, well, I can't wait for season 5 to come out. I'm going to be so tired. Hate to say it, but I usually skip over TNG's first 2 seasons altogether when I rewatch. I cherry pick. Measure of a Man, I think, is the highlight of season 2. Unfortunately, it's been slightly marred by what Picard did, but I think The Measure of a Man is a superb, classic Next Generation episode, and it's when I started having a bit more respect for it, because it was moving away from the original series in the sense that you were starting to see the evolution of these characters. And certainly the concept of philosophy and Star Trek's philosophical nature in the Next Generation started to show. It did to a degree in the original series, if I recall correctly. But from the perspective of the Next Generation, I think that's when it really started getting good. I can't watch TOS since a friend pointed out some problems, like Ahura Ravioli Ring. Well, I've committed to rewatching the original series, so I'm going to do that at some point very soon. My favourite episode is In the Pale Moonlight. Also love The Visitor. In the Pale Moonlight, that was the It's a Fake! That one. Brilliant. I'm sure that was the one. The Cisco one. Yeah. That New Year's Eve 2000 with Janeway Ancestor was not a good one. PWG, how you doing, mate? I usually skip that during a rewatch marathon, and the ones set in the Irish village on the holodeck. Fairhaven ones. Trying to remember how many there were a few Fairhaven ones, weren't there? I don't know. The holodeck ones were just what they were. You can skip them and not really lose out on too much. You can tell which character were theatre actors in shows. Yeah, absolutely. I love the Children of Time as well. Thought it was great. Yeah, and then love Children of Time too. Yeah, and it wasn't similar to what Enterprise. It was Enterprise sort of copied it a little bit with the generational version of the Enterprise, because the Enterprise is thrown back in time, and they now have descendants of the Enterprise crew, much in the same way of as the DS9 episode. It's Children of Time. That was that one, wasn't it? Children of Time. Was it that one? I'm sure it was. I'll have to look it up again. Children of Time. Wasn't that what season was that? Children of Time was season 5. It was before the war, wasn't it? Is it before the war? The chat's going to go nuts in a minute. Children of Time, there we go. Season 5, episode 22. God, I'm getting tired now. Yeah, it's a good episode. I enjoyed that one, and it has such a ending, didn't it? No idea what my favourite episode is. I'd have to think about it for a while. I love so many. When you do the 5-minute live stream, all the best moments of Cosman Trek. Oh my God, 5 minutes. That's giving it a bit too much credit there, mate. I think I lean toward Family as a likely favourite. Family is a wonderful episode, and it has some great chemistry between those two actors. Wow, character's brilliant. Don't know if you answered this, but did you watch the original series? I've not done it yet. I'm going to do it. The Night Spirits in Fairhaven episode was the best of the bunch. I only watch Enterprise's Carpenter Street episode because of Jeffrey Dean Morgan plays a bit part. Yeah, and it had I forget the actor's name now, but he also played the psychotic hologram in Voyager. He always plays creeps and weirdos, doesn't he? Does so very well. I forget his name now. So, this is O. It's something O. His name begins with an O or something. I can't remember. There's no best episode of Star Trek. That's like saying what colour is the best. Yeah, it all depends what you're looking for. It was, yeah. Green is clearly the best colour. The best ever episode is, of course, very subjective. Yeah, I wouldn't say I wouldn't say it's, you can't say what's the best episode of Star Trek. I suppose you could say what's your favourite episode of Star Trek, and those three are the ones that always stick out in my mind. There are some that have come very close to it, but those are the ones that stick in my mind. What's your favourite ship? I'd have to say it was the Enterprise D. In all honesty, that's remained my favourite ship. I love the Defiant. I think it's an absolutely smashing looking ship. Voyager is pretty cool as well. It's a very different design. And I liked the Enterprise E as well. But ultimately, my favourite type of ship is the runabout. I think I'd love a runabout. I don't know about anyone else. But a runabout would fit in your back garden. Most people's back gardens. And it's just a perfect little ship. It's got a transporter, it's got replicators, it's got room, it's got sleeping quarters in the back. You can have a dining table in there. It's like a little house that flies. Great little ship. I love the runabouts. And seeing so many of them get destroyed, it's like, I also like the fact that the runabouts are named after rivers on Earth. Rubicon, Orinoco, Rio Grande. I think they're brilliant. Yangtze Kiang. I decided my Star Trek Online character was born at some point during the DS9 episode Rocks and Shoals, though far away from that on Earth. Nice. Leland Orser, thank you very much, Jimmy. Yeah, it was Leland Orser. He does it so well. Green, obviously blue if you're a fan of Star Trek Enterprise. The Enterprise D is like home. Yeah, it is, isn't it? It's like home. And I liked the Stage 9 reproduction of that before they got shut down. And it gives you a sense of scale of what the Enterprise actually is. Where you see the main shuttle bay of the Enterprise. What they did is they built the Enterprise, essentially. Not in its entirety, but the external model looks fantastic, graphically speaking. And you're able to walk around. You see Chief O'Brien as soon as you be on board, and you're able to go to different sections. I've still got a copy of Stage 9 on my computer here, and it's brilliant. You see the shuttle bay, the main shuttle bay, and you've got like this overhang sort of viewing area where it's a bar, and it's the shuttles, and you see them going in and out. And the shuttle bay is vast, and in that shuttle bay you've got a runabout, and you can go inside the runabout, have a look around inside the runabout. And I don't think you can actually take off, but it's brilliant, absolutely brilliant. And Starfleet and Starfleet ships, aren't they just somewhere that you would just want to end up? You'd be happy to be there, wouldn't you? You'd be happy to be there because it would feel like home. Anything NuTrek, you just wouldn't want to be there. Because your mortality rate is worse than that of Game of Thrones. It's horrendous. And you wouldn't want to be Echep if you were in NuTrek. I'd have liked to see the NX-01 get the upgrade during its 5th season, so it looked like the TOS style ship. Yeah, wasn't that Doug Drexler who upgraded the ship? It looked really good. I thought it was good. I never liked that they brought family onto Enterprise who put family in danger. Yeah, it's a flagship, though. It's a status thing, I would have thought, of in some ways. The Enterprise D, yeah, in fact, family on a Federation starship was different, and I don't think it did work. You're talking about 1,000 people on a starship. rather than a crew of 250. Aside from the exploding consoles, I'd love to be on a Starfleet ship. Yeah, exploding consoles, not really what you're looking for a good day, I suppose. And you wouldn't want the kids running around anywhere that could explode. Plasma conduits and all of that stuff. But I wouldn't like to be on the bridge of the Discovery when it's under attack, because that just instigates the flamethrowers. At least there were no flamethrowers on the other ships. A family on board the D did make sense in the first 2 seasons. The Federation was relatively at peace with every major empire and never considered things like the Borg. True, yeah, I thought after the Borg, they would have changed the policies and gotten the families off the ship, because essentially if the ship gets assimilated, you've got 1,000 people that get assimilated. That's 1,000 Borg drones. That's 1,000 people who have a vast wealth of experience in the Federation and everything. And it would, you're talking about mass losses there. Whereas if you run the Enterprise on not a skeleton crew, but a standard crew, it's less chance. Yeah, I think someone's bringing up the Odyssey. Well, they didn't, I always find it frustrating, because did they offload the crew of the Odyssey or not? Because it's never confirmed that they did that. Dax says, I would hope that you're taking the Odyssey be getting all the non-essential crew and families off the Odyssey before going through the wormhole. And he says, "Would you ever play poker or something, Lieutenant?" It's like, did you or did you not? Are those people alive or dead? I always thought that was ridiculous. Movie Park Germany has a great replica of the TNG bridge. Was absolutely amazing when I entered it for the first time. Oh, step on the TNG bridge. I'd love that. No, you can't have a family on the Enterprise. It's one of Roddenberry's many mistakes in TNG they did not make in TOS. Yeah. Someone asked me about which universe I would choose, Star Trek or Star Wars, and I did not have to think about it. Nah. Star Wars, the universe of Star Wars is pretty much a shithole. But you notice that that's what they're making Star Trek now, is pretty much a shithole. Every planet's got to be a gambling, fucking drug-infested hell cesspit of corner of the galaxy, which they did in Star Trek 5, but they took it to the extremes. I always hoped that they let families off the Odyssey before. Yeah, same here. Yeah, that's what I mean. It's just Odyssey. They always had trouble with that one. Exactly the same. Huge ships like the D are basically floating cities, and going on long-term missions kind of makes sense to have entire families there, I suppose. But the amount that they go to star bases and stuff like that. Would you rather live on Nimbus 3 or Tatooine? I'd probably rather live on Tatooine, to be fair. Nimbus 3 looks awful. Good point about NuTrek being turned into a really wank version of Star Wars, Danger Man. Yeah, it's really a wank version of Star Wars, yeah. I hadn't thought about it. I hadn't thought to put it like that, but yeah, you're right. That's pretty much what I'm saying. I won't be long till I end the stream. What do you say we go for another 10 minutes? Let's do the 3 hours. I've got 10 minutes. Let's go for the 3 hours. If anybody's here who's watching who has not subscribed to the channels, please do so. Also, could you give some love to Clayton Rumley and visit his channel and subscribe as well? That would really warm my heart. He's an absolutely class bloke, and we will be doing the stream next week. I just want to say thank you, Clayton, for being here. I understand you're not very well at the moment, but it's always nice to have you here. And if you want to support the channel, then please hit the like button. Consider subscribing, as I've already said, and don't forget to share the stream with others who you think would be interested in this sort of content. I will be here for another 10 minutes. Let's do another 10 minutes and then I'll end the stream. And hopefully I will end it correctly this time, because I didn't on the last one. Thankfully the streaming software was off. Do you think the Orville will come back? I really hope Seth MacFarlane gets Star Trek and what works. I really hope so. Seth MacFarlane gets Star Trek and what works. Do I think the Orville's going to come back? I hope I'm wrong, but no, I don't think the Orville's coming back. I think maybe Seth might be done with it. I think the Orville existed for a very specific reason. I'd love MacFarlane to get the rights to Star Trek, because imagine what that would look like if Star Trek once again resembled Star Trek the way the Orville resembles Star Trek. Imagine what that would be like. I would like the Orville to come back, but in some ways I think that what they've made with the Orville is great, and I'm not sure I'd like to see more if it's not as good as season 3. You know what I mean? It's really hard. Any fan-made Star Trek that you like? I like fan-made projects, not necessarily dramatic projects, but more practical projects. I like things like the Stage 9, where they built the Enterprise, and they actually modelled Deep Space Nine as well. Those kind of fan projects I really like, because that gets you more immersed in the world. The fan-made stories, yes and no. It depends. If it's done really well, it's like Axanar. I watched Prelude to Axanar, and I know that they're making Axanar, or they've made a certain amount of Axanar, and that's still going through the motions as far as I'm aware. Axanar, or the Prelude to Axanar, I thought was really good. Really good. And, you know, to see these actors come in and do this, these fan-made projects, I thought was absolutely phenomenal. I thought it was really good, but all the politics around Axanar was tough. It was tough. $5 super chat from Just Another Watch Nerd. Just wanted to say that your live streams and videos give me so much happiness. Thank you for doing what you do, mate. Thank you very much for that. That's very, very kind of you. I don't ever expect anyone to super chat, but it's always nice when you do. That's wonderful. Thank you so much, and I'm glad that me prattling on in my live streams doesn't depress too many people, and some people get some enjoyment from it, because I think it's I find myself questioning sometimes. I love you guys so much, but it's very difficult, and Clayton and others will tell you how difficult it is to keep a YouTube channel going and to find the time to do that. But I really love that I get to do these live streams, and I hope I'm not boring anybody with my opinion. So thank you so much for that, Watch Nerd. That's really, really made me smile. You don't know how much. Patrick, the worst real Star Trek for me is the original series. The 60s style is just not for me. It's very difficult, and I'm going to find it very... I find it is difficult to watch. It can be very challenging to watch, very difficult, because you've got to get past the fact that what you're seeing is not modern. But some people love watching the original series and can take to it just like that, because they grew up with it. I grew up with it, so I'm hoping when I go back and rewatch it, it's not gonna break my concentration too much. Assuming the Orville is over, I'd like to see Seth and the Orville creators take over the Star Trek contract from Secret Hideout. Exactly, Jackie. I'd like the same thing, if I'm honest. I would like the same thing. I'd love to see the Orville guys take Star Trek back, because they would be taking it back. You look at the Orville group of writers. Look at the Orville group of writers. They are ex-Star Trek alum. They are all Star Trek alum. Most of them. And you can tell because they've brought what made Star Trek great over to the Orville. And I'd love to see another season of the Orville. But I would equally love to see Star Trek back in the hands of the people that write it best and know it best. Orville Season 2 was the best. 3 wasn't fun anymore. Way too heavy. Yeah, Orville Season 2 and Season 3 were two completely different shows. And I liked them both for their stark contrast to one another. Because Season 2 of the Orville was a comedy. And Season 3 was more like a comedy drama. It did have elements of humour to it, but it wasn't... yeah, it wasn't... How can I put this? It wasn't just about the jokes. There was more. There was deeper stories. It felt like it matured, and it was still able to tell the odd dad joke rather than being just a fun comedy. And I think that's really important distinction to make between the two seasons. I liked Season 3. It impacted me a lot more than Season 2 and Season 1. But I did make this point in my videos, I did miss a lot of the comedy that Season 2 brought from the Orville. Stepan, hope you do a trivia stream to challenge you a little. A trivia stream? It's interesting. What would be the format? Would you guys ask the questions? Would you guys be the ones to challenge me? Or would I have to get someone on the channel to ask questions? That would be quite a challenge. I'd need to be very awake for that, I think. I don't know when I'd do that. Maybe do a trivia stream. That'd be interesting. Okay, we've got about 8 minutes left. Season 2 of the Orville wasn't just comedy. It also had amazing two-parter. It had a better mix. Yeah, that's true. I think the first season was the fun one. The second season, which was the war one, was called Identity, wasn't it? Identity Part 1 and 2. That was superb. It's absolutely superb. And I also liked the the alternate future ones, the alternate timeline ones. I thought they were really good. Very, very entertaining. And very well written and well structured. Very good. I liked it. So yeah, it was Season 2 was great. Really enjoyed it. I'll be honest with you, I wish my channel was going for a lot longer than it has been. I wish I had the chance to have done the review of Season 1 of Discovery, the review of Season 1 of Picard, and then the review of the Orville Season 1. I wish I'd had the chance to do them when they had come out. I could still probably do them, but the channel is struggling at the moment with views and watches, and it's starting. It does this every time in between series, in between reviews that I do. It drops down, and every time I do like a gaming stream, yeah, that will affect the channel. That would affect the channel sort of greatly. We could do an entire stream talking about Enterprise, I'm sure. Yeah, we did an entire stream talking about Picard Season 3, which is on the channel if you want to watch it, guys. Me and Clayton going on for, well, that was bladder torture, as Clayton would have put it. It was It was bladder torture, but it was great. It was fun. It was so much fun. Up to you about the format. Love to see how much you like the show. Very few people. How much you like the show. Very few people are. Just wish the Orville season 3 would be on Blu-ray. Is it not out yet? I honestly thought it was out. It's not out yet. Wow. I didn't know. I did not know. Crikey. Bloody hell. We actually hit 3 hours. We're about to. 3, 2, 1. 3 hours! 3 hours of me prattling on. Wow. Superb. I honestly thought the Orville was on Blu-ray. I suppose you could go back to and review individual episodes of Trek. Yeah. Yeah, I suppose I could. Watch Nerd. I suppose I could. The trouble is with the way that the algorithm works on YouTube is that you have to do stuff that's in the news or just been released, or stuff that's relevant to that time, and it's so annoying because I don't want to do reviews of Ahsoka because I don't watch Star Wars that much, and I love the films. I think the films are great, but what they've done to Star Wars is horrendous, and I can't bring myself to watch it. I do Star Trek because I know more about the universe of Star Trek, and I can pick out these little errors that they're making, or just the fact that they really hate it. But I don't really care about Ahsoka. I don't really care about Star Wars. Not that much. It's just another franchise that they've destroyed. I believe it's on DVD, not Blu-ray. That's shocking, considering the budget that went into the effects of it. It's shocking, isn't it? It's not your fault. Sadly, Paramount has killed the Star Trek love, and fan apathy is kicking in. Even with the older series, sadly, as NuTrek is the future to the heats. Yeah, well, if NuTrek is the future, then I'm not really there, am I? Wellington, the Orville season 3 is out on Blu-ray. I haven't seen it yet. Well, if the Orville, I haven't seen it yet. Okay. You could review Lower Decks. Season 4 is out now. I know you don't like it, but there's a lot to review. Well, I was going to do a video on the Voyager-centric Lower Decks episode. I might still do that. If I get the time. If I get the time, I'm going to do a Lower Decks Voyager episode review. The trouble is with Lower Decks is that I actually have to watch it. And that's a lot of Lower Decks is it's like turn your brain off television, isn't it? It's like when you watch an episode of South Park, you know what you're in for. Because you're going to watch an episode of South Park. It's always going to be in the South Park style. It's always going to be a slightly higher brow than The Simpsons, for example, and just more in your face at times. Lower Decks is like Rick and Morty, and I struggle to watch Rick and Morty because it just doesn't gel with me. Lower Decks doesn't gel with me, and I'm not sure I could put up with the format. We'll see. I can't stand a 5 minutes discussion with the new generation who loves NuTrek. It mentally exhausts me. Well, you feel like you're wasting your time, I would imagine. Doctor Who's 60th review. Again, it's not really my thing. Doctor Who is not really my thing. I have seen Doctor Who. I enjoyed Doctor Who. I did most of the Eccleston run, a little bit of the Tennant run, and then it gradually got shitter and shitter, and I just thought, nah, it's not for me. doubt the viewing figures, interest, revenue compared to a pre-2005 Trek. My problem with Lower Decks is that it makes Star Trek obviously fiction. It breaks the illusion for me. Yeah, it does. It's fourth wall breaking, isn't it? And kind of disrespectful. I don't really like Lower Decks. I think it mocks it more than it should, and mocks it in. It mocks it. Star Trek is not a show that mocks itself. It's never been self-satire. Other shows have done it. Other shows have the right to do it. But Star Trek has never been self-satire, and that's what does it for me. When it starts taking the piss out of itself in a very obvious fourth wall breaking way. You know, and it's all the references that they wouldn't make in, you know, to be fair, it's kind of like a childish Star Trek. It's not for me. But I watched the Voyager episode and that just sealed the deal for me, I think. I'm so done with Kurtzman Trek, even the reviews aren't worth my time anymore. Yeah, Kurtzman Trek is not good. I don't watch any NuTrek, I just watch Danger Man reviews. They're better than the shows. Thank you very much, PWG. Porg, Deathhawk81. I appreciate that. I really do. The reviews are tough to do. The episode's even tougher to watch, but yeah, thank you. I appreciate you watching. I always do. Always do. Doctor Who has the best villain, Weeping Angel, still scared me. That one I did see. Even more than the Borg, yeah. That one I did see. Those bloody angels, every time you close your eyes or blink, they move closer to you. It's kind of like they did that sort of thing in Resident Evil 8, the downloadable DLC content, when this expansion or whatever. You had these mannequins that do the same thing. They only move when you're not looking at them. Frickin' hell. I should have done a live stream on that. You'd have seen a grown man crap his pants. Clayton, Lodex should be called Gene Rodden Memberberries. That's made me laugh. Thank you very much, Clayton. That's made me laugh. Doctor Who and Star Trek have had several comic crossovers. Cybermen and Dalek unite into one. Yep, absolutely. Did you see the live adaptation of Lower Decks episode? Yes, I did, and I reviewed it, and I didn't like it. It was terrible. I did not enjoy it. It was a crossover episode, and there was nothing else to it. Some of the things in that episode made absolutely no sense. Absolutely no sense. Ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous episode of television. Jimmy77, I love listening to you talk about Star Trek. At that point, I would suggest medical help for you, mate. But I appreciate it, mate. I really do. I appreciate it. I ain't gonna be too long before I go, because I'm getting tired now. I've already gone a few minutes over what I said I would, but I just love talking to you guys. I really do. It's nice to converse with like-minded individuals, and even if you're not like-minded, if you've still come here and you're commenting, I just know that I love having you around, because it's great to have a broader conversation. And you find that that's what a lot of NuTrek people generally don't like doing, is they don't like conversing with fans like us. Star Trek and Doctor Who ended the same way, destroyed by woke incompetent showrunners. Yeah. Well, Doctor Who never stood a chance. It's owned by the BBC. Clayton, thanks for another great stream, Danger Man. Well, you guys make it great. I just have a chat with you, so I really appreciate you all stopping by. Clayton, I will be seeing you next week, no doubt. I hope you feel better. I hope you're feeling better now, and you let me know if you're going to be up for next weekend. I'm still up for it. I shall schedule it halfway through the week. You just let me know. Please feel better. Everybody else in the chat, thank you for the chats. Thank you for the super chats. Thank you for the comments. Thank you for watching. Thank you for being here with me and spending 3 hours chatting Star Trek. Thank you, Danger Man, Clayton Romney. Hope you feel better soon. Look forward to seeing you next week on the stream. Yeah, thanks, Watch Nerd. Thanks for the super chat. It's very much appreciated. You guys are awesome. You guys rock. Yeah, brilliant. Absolutely spot on. So yeah, I guess that's going to be Danger Man out, I suppose. Good stream. I'd like to see more of this. Thanks, mate. Thank you for this nice community. Oh, thank you, mate. That means a lot. There is a really good community here. It's not a lot of people. It's not a lot of people. But numbers have never mattered to me. Numbers don't matter. People matter. You know, you look at someone like the Drinker, and he's got what 1.8 million subscribers. Whatever it is. How many people of those make up a great community? I love this community. I think it's great. Have a great week, everybody. Yeah, I agree. Live long and prosper. Thank you, Watch Nerd. Thank you, Jimmy. Thank you, Jackie. Lovely to have you here. Thank you, Clayton. Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Stepan. I assume I'm saying your name right. And it's not Stepan or... there's a hidden H there somewhere, and it's not Stevan. Deathhawk, thank you. Let's see, anybody else I'm missing? Willow Falls, thank you very much for your interactions. It's been great having you here. It will grow, believe me, you're honest. I wish that was the case, mate. If anything, it's tanking right now. So I appreciate everybody's support. I appreciate everybody being here. This is me saying goodbye, signing off, toodling off, toodle pips. Watch TOS. I will. I'll get some done this week. All right. Much love to you all. Love you all. Take care. Bye-bye for now.